Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. What's Open Mic? Well, you see, I'm glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we save some time at the end of the show to take live questions. But here on the weekends, that's all we do here on Open Mic is just take nothing but live questions, all the things you guys want to talk about as it relates to movies, movie news, television, some pop culture stuff, all that sorts of good stuff. And we got a bunch of things we're going to cover here today. But listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this off first. Now, I'm sure me and Rob and Chris will talk about this on Monday, but Joker has premiered at Venice. Joker has had its premiere at the Venice Film Festival, and I don't think anybody was prepared for the reviews that are coming out about it. We are seeing 10 out of 10. I've seen over multiple reviews the term masterpiece being used regarding this Joker movie. We're already hearing Oscar buzz for Joaquin Phoenix coming out of this. It has been unmitigatedly positive. Everybody is doing backflips over this film that has seen it at the Venice Film Festival and is talking about it right now. Now, I have not seen the film yet, so I can't talk about the movie in any sort of depth, obviously, by any stretch of the imagination. But everybody who has seen it and is talking about it is saying nothing but outrageously positive things. Now, again, my one kind of concern that I have about Joker and the audience's reaction to it is I'm continue to be a little bit worried that there are going to be a number of people going in to see Joker who are expecting a traditional comic book movie. And clearly that's not what the Joker is. That's not what Joker is. Joker is not the traditional run-of-the-mill comic book movie. It's not your run-of-the-mill Aquaman movie or Ant-Man movie or Wonder Woman movie or Captain America movie. It's not your traditional comic book movie. This is more of a gritty Martin Scorsese, Taxi Driver, King of Comedy kind of film, and people are losing their minds over it. But my fear is that there are going to be a number of people who go into this movie, much like what happened with Superman Returns with Brendan Routh. I've always contended I think Superman Returns is a good movie. It's just not a very good comic book movie, and I think a lot of people understandably went into Superman Returns expecting a comic book movie, right? Of course, it's Superman. And I think some people got really disappointed because that's not what they got. And the one thing I'm worried about Joker, I've talked about it before, I'm sure I'll bring it up again on Monday, is that I'm worried that there are going to be some people that go into Joker, it's not what they're going to be expecting, and they're going to come out like, where was Harley Quinn? Where was a giant hammer? Where was acid coming out of his flower? Like, they're going to be expecting something like that, which is understandable. And they may be disappointed by it because it's not the type of movie they were expecting. I don't know if there's any way we can avoid that. I think that's just going to happen with some people, and so be it. But right now, the people who have seen it at the Venice Film Festival are tripping over themselves, just gawking about it. I read a couple of critics saying they have never been, in all the years they've been to the Venice Film Festival, they've never heard an ovation at the end of a film at the Venice Film Festival like they did for Joker. So, take all this with a grain of salt. It's just one group of people that have seen it. We may see it and hate it, but I'll tell you what, I've been stoked. I have been absolutely stoked about this Joker movie. You guys know this since day one that they announced it. I have been so excited for this since day one. I'm getting nothing. My hype engine is getting blasted into overdrive right now. It's going up to ludicrous speed. Seeing the reviews coming out about it. We've only got, we're talking about a matter of weeks now. Weeks away. Not 2 or 3 weeks, but weeks away from seeing Joker, and I cannot wait. All right, guys, listen. Let's now get over to what this show is really all about, which is taking your live questions. You guys have been firing in the live questions. Let's make today about the things you guys want to talk about. So let's jump on over and get things started. First thing's coming to us from Hey John, hope you're having a good weekend as a username, and Nick as the message. Well, thank you for that. So far, so good. Last night, Ann and I, let me see if I can pull up an image here. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to, but maybe I will. Oh, I can. Look at that. Last night, Ann and I were able to go and see the incomparable John Williams. last night. Ann and I, every year we go see the John Williams concert at the glorious outdoor Hollywood Bowl. And it was a great experience. It started off slow, I got to say, because David Newman, who's a great conductor, David Newman did the first half of the show, and then John Williams came out to do the last part of the show. He conducted about 6 or 7 pieces. Obviously, they did the Star Wars one. They did the Indiana Jones one. They did some stuff from Jurassic World, which was amazing. It was just, once again, a fabulous experience, as it always is. Ann and I love going to this thing every year. I fear this might be, there's a lightsaber coming out of my head there. I fear this might be the final year John Williams does it, because over the last couple of years, he's been doing less and less. Like a few years ago, John Williams conducted basically the whole thing and let David Newman, who's the son of Alfred Newman, who's the great iconic conductor who mentored John Williams. So there's a generational thing. Newman mentored John Williams, who then started to mentor Newman's son, David Williams, who is now in his own right a big conductor. So a few years ago, John Williams would do the whole thing. And then the next year, Newman would do a few things, and John Williams would do most of it. And then about a year or so ago, it went to Newman doing the first half, and then John Williams coming out to do the second half. And then this year, it was even less. Like Newman did the first half, then when they had the intermission, then he came out and did about half of the second half of the show as well. And then John Williams came out to do the final bits and pieces. He's getting older. So Ann and I had a feeling last night as we were watching it that this might have been John Williams' final concert that he does, at least as far as his annual Hollywood Bowl goes. But yes, Nick, we had a fabulous weekend so far. We've got a great weekend planned ahead of us. We're packed weekend for us, but we're really, really excited. All right, next up, Quinn Fowley writes, I finally saw Ready or Not last night. I really liked Ready or Not last night with a work friend. Free screening too. We both work at Cineplex and get unlimited free films as a result. That's a nice bonus. I'm itching to see it again for 2 reasons. The first reason being, I absolutely loved it. Not only was I almost completely enthralled throughout, but between this and Good Boys, I personally find Ready or Not to be the funnier film, really. Second reason, my viewing experience probably would have been better had I found out more than 10 minutes beforehand that the screening I thought was scheduled for 8:30 was actually at 7:50. That way, I wouldn't have missed the first 2 minutes of the film. I know 2 minutes isn't a big deal, but I prefer seeing films either in full or not at all. I still adored the rest, though. Well, anyway, Quinn, thanks for sending that in. And first of all, I loved it too. I had such a good time with Ready or Not. Like, I could tell, I think most of us could tell, from the very first trailer, it's like, this looks like it could be fun. Low budget, indie-style filmmaking, one environment, wacky characters, go with somebody we all probably thought was Margot Robbie. Most of us, come on, we all thought that was Margot Robbie at first, right? We all thought it was. Anyway, the trailers for it made me go, hell yeah, this looks pretty good. Then I was a little late getting out to see it. But when I finally did go to see it, I'm like, this totally lives up to everything it promised. It delivers on everything this movie promised to be. It's fun, got some good scares, it's a little bit gruesome, interesting kind of ghost story, mythology, backstory to it. It's all that and more. Now, as far as missing the first 2 minutes, here's the thing. I can totally get what you're saying, because the longer the movie, this isn't always 100% true, but I find it is in this case. The longer the movie, the more okay it is if you miss a couple of minutes, because clearly they're stretching out their storytelling with the longer movies. Great. A movie like Ready or Not, which comes in at a brilliantly crisp, like 90 minutes, 95 minutes at most, which is the perfect length for a movie like this. Just all thriller, no filler, just bang, 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 bang. It's just great, so enjoyable. But when you get a movie like that, where they don't waste any time in this movie, every second of screen time is meant doing something that the movie needs. There's no wasted time in a movie like this. It's all bang, 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 bang. In a movie like that, missing the first 2 to 3 minutes can be important, because this is a movie that's not wasting any time. So they're going to start communicating important information about the film right from the first frame. And so the more that you miss, the more that you miss. Whereas in a longer film, you can afford to miss because you know there's some filler frames in there. Anyway, I would encourage you to go back because the first couple of minutes are key. It's not like you can't enjoy the movie without seeing the first 2 minutes. You obviously can. But yeah, they start setting up the overall theme and the backstories of the characters immediately in Ready or Not. So I would say if you got a chance, Quinn, absolutely go watch it again. If for no other reason, then that's just a really fun movie. Anyway, thanks for sharing all that, man. All right. Jorge Grando writes, if Netflix gave their films a proper theatrical release/run, they could also get a bit of box office money. It's not like they don't need the extra cash. Well, here's the thing, Jorge. That is true from a certain point of view, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi. Here's the thing. A lot of people forget that a part of putting a movie out into theaters is having to do a marketing campaign. And marketing campaigns can be expensive. And you have to cut deals and make distribution deals across the country with the different theater chains and blah, blah, blah. It's money. That's why distributors put up so much money, because they have to pay for the distribution and for the marketing of the film. You know, and not every film is an Avengers Endgame where they spent $200 million on marketing. No, a lot of films spend like $50 million on marketing or sometimes even less. But if you're Netflix and you've got an original film, you've got to be realistic about how much money do we actually think this movie can make in theaters? Will people actually flock out to go see it if it's in theaters? And then depending on how you answer that question, you then got to ask, is it worth it for us to dump an additional $50, $60, $70 million into the marketing of that film so people are even aware that it's in theaters and try to encourage them going out to see it? And a lot of times the answer to that question is no. A lot of times, particularly with Netflix films, the answer to that question is no. There's a lot of original Netflix films that if they put them in theaters, they probably can't make back the amount of money it costs them to put it into theaters in the first place, when you take into consideration marketing and all that kind of stuff. Now, you may be saying to yourself, but John, a movie like Irishman, I mean, it's Martin Scorsese, right? It's Martin Scorsese. Well, okay. Hold on a second. What was the name? What was the name of that Liam Neeson movie that he did with Martin Scorsese? Silence. Okay. So let's go back and take a look at how Silence, Martin Scorsese film, did at the box office. You know how much Silence made at the box office? Not on opening weekend, not just domestically, worldwide. You know how much money Silence made? A Martin Scorsese film starring Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. The Liam Neesons? Yeah, the Liam Neesons. You know how much money that movie made worldwide? Directed by Martin Scorsese, $23 million. 23 million bucks. It's how much that movie made worldwide. By the way, that's a really good movie too. That's a really, really good movie too. And look, while Al Pacino and Robert De Niro are a couple of the all-time great, most celebrated actors ever, absolutely, fact of the matter is, it's not like they're big box office draws the last 10, 15 years, right? So I would contend that I was starting to believe that The Irishman, the reason other studios wouldn't touch it is because they knew you couldn't make money on it. You won't be able to get out an audience for it. And I think they were probably right. So when you're Netflix, I think they have some films that, yeah, they should roll the dice, put this in theaters, give it a theatrical run, and see how it does. And maybe Irishman would be one of those. It's risky, but maybe Irishman is one of those. But for a lot of their films, Jorge, I think we got to understand and see it from their point of view that putting it into theaters isn't just, oh, hit a button and it's in theaters. It's spending tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. And can it make that back? And that's something they got to consider moving forward. That's something they got to consider. Anyway, excellent question, Jorge. Okay, Chris M. writes, did you see the news that Halloween Kills is now bringing back the two kids from the original Halloween to reprise their roles? I know you aren't a fan of the original, but man, I'm looking forward to this. Well, I heard they're bringing back like Like this slick talking kid who was being babysat in the most recent Halloween film. I heard they're bringing him back, which is great because he's awesome. I love that kid. As far as I really don't care. Anything about the original Halloween film, I don't care. Now, look, I am totally on board with most people when it comes to most films that are considered classics. Most films that are considered big classics, I'm totally on board with. But all of us have a few films that everybody considers classics that we don't ourselves like. One of those for me is actually the original Halloween. I don't think it holds up. I just don't find it to be that good of a movie, to be honest with you. I really liked, however, the most recent one with Jamie Lee Curtis. For some reason, I just adored that movie. But I am actually not a fan of the original. So I got to be honest with you, Chris, the idea that they're bringing back a couple of the original kids from the original film, I guess that's nice, I suppose. I really don't see that being anything to be excited about, but I know people who love that Halloween movie, and that's the majority of people, are probably going to be pretty excited to hear about that, Chris. So it's interesting news, even for me that I don't care about it. It's still a little bit interesting. It's cute that they're doing that. All right, Nathan Oswald writes, my top 10 favorite films of all time. 3:10 to Yuma. I love that movie. That's an underrated movie. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The Godfather. Iron Man. The Breakfast Club. Moneyball. Star Trek Wrath of Khan. Ocean's 11. Big Trouble in Little China. Number 1. Beverly Hills Cop. I gotta be honest with you, Nathan. I've never talked to anybody that called Beverly Hills Cop their number 1 favorite all-time film. Lots of people who love Beverly Hills Cop. I've never seen somebody list that as their all-time favorite film. And that, Nathan, you just illustrated perfectly why all film is subjective. Because I'll tell you what, right now, there's a lot of people looking at your list, Nathan, going, how can you possibly have Ocean's 11 or Moneyball or Beverly Hills Cop above The Godfather? Because all films are subjective. And I think your top 10 list, which there's a lot of great films in it, by the way. Like me, I don't even think Iron Man is a top 10 Marvel film. I don't even think it's a top 10 Marvel film, but for you, it's a top 10 film of all time. Your list beautifully illustrates the subjectivity of film. We all watch these films. They all hit us in different ways. And thank you for sharing your list with that. I like all the films on your list. I think they're all great. But again, 3:10 to Yuma, Christian Bale, Russell Crowe, Ben. Oh, why am I freezing on Ben's last name? Anyway, fabulous, fabulous movie. One of the great, more modern Westerns. Check it out if you haven't done that. Thanks for sharing that, Nathan. All right. David Tapia writes, Midsommar Director's Cut will be an iTunes exclusive only. Really? Oh, that's interesting. I thought I heard, not that I cared, but I thought I heard it was going to get a theatrical run. Okay, it's just an extra thing coming out on iTunes. Okay. But then I'm going to guess, so it's not a re-release. I'm guessing that's just a regular part of its digital release. That's not so bad if that's the case. If that's the case, David, that's not so bad. Unless you're saying the director's cut is going to be in theaters, and then once it is digital, the director's cut will exclusively be to iTunes only. I'm not sure if you're saying that or if it's not going to be in theaters and it's only going to be on iTunes. So I'm not sure which one you're saying there. Either way, it's interesting. All right, Imran writes, did Matt Reeves need to consult Walter Hamada in casting Arbats, that's Robert Pattinson, as the Batman? Or did he give Reeves to creative freedom to cast whoever he wanted? Look, first of all, you always got to get studio approval. Now, what will happen most of the time is that going to the studio to approval is usually just a formality. Like, you do got to go and get the blessings from the higher ups, but normally that's just a formality, right? How much freedom they gave Matt Reeves to choose who he wanted to play Batman depends on what Walter Hamada's plan for Batman is. What I mean by that is this. If Matt Reeves's Batman is meant to be isolated and have it's its own standalone universe and is not going to be a part of the DCEU and all that kind of stuff, then Matt Reeves will have more freedom to pick who he wants as his Batman. However, if Walter Hamada sees this Batman as is later on going to be crossing over into other DC movies, and that this Batman is going to be a part of the grander picture of the DCEU moving forward, then Walter Hamada is going to have more of a say. Because at that point, Matt Reeves isn't just picking who he wants to play in his movie, He's picking somebody who's going to be playing Batman in other people's movies as well. And because of that, Hamada will have more, will inject himself more into the conversation. So it all depends. Either way, he's going to get Matt Reeves a lot of say. But how much freedom he gives him that choice depends on the long-reaching nature of it. For example, when Jon Favreau was making Iron Man, Kevin Feige knew what the plan was long-term for Marvel. And he knew that Jon Favreau wasn't just casting Iron Man for his own movie, he was casting Iron Man for the MCU. And so Jon Favreau didn't just have the power to, I pick Robert Downey Jr., and that was the end of the story. No. He picked Robert Downey Jr., but then they had to fight for it. Then they began a long process of trying to convince the higher-ups that this was a good bet. And at the time, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't a good bet. I mean, he had destroyed his career multiple times. He had tons of self-inflicted problems, all that kind of stuff. He was trying to make a comeback again. And understandably, people at the studio were, do we want to risk our future on this guy who has been so self-destructive? And I guess Favreau was able to convince Kevin Feige and the other executives that Robert Downey Jr. had really turned things around and was dedicated to heading in the right direction. And they were able to convince him of that. But it wasn't just Favreau's decision, because it had longer-term, longer-reaching implications. That casting was more than just casting for his movie. It was for casting for other movies the studio wanted to do down the line, so they couldn't just give the exclusive say in that to the director. I believe the same thing is true here with Matt Reeves. I think he had a lot of the say, but he also had to get Hamada's sign-off on it. And how much Walter Hamada needed to be convinced will be directly related to how integrated will this Robert Pattinson Batman be to the overall DCEU. Will it be limited to just the Batman films? Or will it be more extended out into other films? Do they have grander plans for him down the line? And if that's the case, then Walter Hamada will inject himself even more into the conversation. So it really all depends, man. But absolutely, either way, it had to get Hamada's approval. How ceremonial that approval was, or how very important that approval was, will all depend on how deeply involved the Robert Pattinson Batman will be moving forward. Anyway, Mista47 writes, if you had to fight to the death, either the Brightburn Kid or Highlander, who would it be and why? I'd pick the Highlander myself, more reasonable. Oh, no, easy. Yeah, no, Highlander. If I had to fight to the death, what are you going to do? Fight a guy who doesn't have superhuman speed, doesn't have superhuman strength. The only way to kill him is to cut his head off, but you can do that just with a regular sword or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or do you want to fight a kid that shoots laser beams from his eyes, can't be hurt in any way, shape, or form, can travel at the speed of sound, and can lift 10 tanks above his head? Yeah, I'm fighting the Highlander. Look, make no mistake about it, I'm losing both of those fights, so it doesn't really matter. But at least I'll have the illusion of having a chance if I'm fighting the Highlander. Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C, theme park rights are indeed strange. I was at a Cedar Fair park yesterday, and they were playing A Whole New World in a Peanuts-themed area. Yeah, so where that's coming from, why Suthius is bringing that up, is a question that a lot of people have been bringing up recently because of the whole split between Disney and Sony regarding Spider-Man. A lot of people have been asking recently about, well, wait a minute. Disney had plans of putting Spider-Man attractions in Disneyland. Can they still do that? And the answer to that question is yes. Because movie rights and theme park rights are totally different things. Those are totally separate things. Now, what they probably can't do moving forward is have Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the theme parks, but they can have Spider-Man. They can have the rights to Spider-Man, and they can put Spider-Man in their theme parks and do things with their theme parks. One of the examples of that is this. Harry Potter is a Warner Brothers property. But guess where the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is? Right up the street from me at a little place called Universal Studios Hollywood. Harry Potter's not a Universal property, but the licensing and rights to theme park stuff is different from licensing and rights in movies. So that's a very good point you bring up there, Suthius. All right. Suthius follows up by writing, as a child, my father was very frugal. Only took me to the cinemas twice. That's it. Power Rangers and the Power Rangers the movie and Mortal Kombat were what I wanted to see. Here's an interesting story. I had been going to movies. I had already been going to movies, obviously, for a while. And when did that damn thing come out? Did it come out in? Came out in 92. Okay. Or is that video game? Wait a second. Where is it? Mortal Kombat. I think it's got to be before that. Let me just bring this up here. Okay. Mortal Kombat. Oh, it came out in 95. Did that actually come out in 95? I thought it came out earlier than that. But no, I guess it was 95. Okay. So 95 is when it came out. And I believe that might have been the first movie I took a date to. Before that, I never took dates to movies. I think Mortal Kombat was the first movie I ever took a date to. And it was a girl I was already dating. I think it was I think it was the girl I was dating at the time was Cheryl. Her name was Cheryl Dixon. And I believe that was the first one I took a date to. So there's a little bit of a connection there for me. So I could totally see why you would want your dad to take you to go see that. Terrible movie, but it's awesome in its terribleness. I love that movie so much, even though it's completely awful. Christopher Lambert, speaking of the Highlander, Christopher Lambert, who is Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod, was Lord Raiden, which was a really weird choice. It's still to this day is a really weird choice that that Christopher Lambert was Raiden. That one doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'll be honest with you. That one doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. All right, let's see. Krypton Cage writes, Essence, need more Essence. I'm assuming you're probably talking about Dark Crystal. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Because I'm waiting for my wife to watch the original movie before I can start watching the new one with her, so I haven't seen it yet. Suthius writes, don't think this is a spoiler or anything, but with Peter coming back home to New York City, it'd be more easy for Sony to continue his story and keep him in New York City. Well, I mean, they can do anything. Remember, they're just going to ignore everything that happened in the MCU. You know, we're going to get... I don't know this for a fact, okay? Just be clear. I don't know this for a fact. I'm just speculating here, but... I think we're going to get, Zendaya back as MJ. Ned's going to be there. Jacob Bartolone is going to come back to play Ned. Tom Holland's coming back to play Spider-Man. But other than that, they're going to completely ignore everything MCU connected. Everything MCU connected, they're going to ignore. And whether they do that in New York or somewhere else, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, bringing Spider-Man back to his home turf where everybody knows him from, Spider-Man in New York City, that's the way to go. And it'll work out just fine. We'll see how that all kind of unravels. All right. Robert Aguirre writes, Doomsday versus Thanos. Who would be victorious in your opinion? It all depends. Straight up, Doomsday wins that fight. With an Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos wins the fight. So if Thanos can run around the universe and get all the Infinity Stones and make the Infinity Gauntlet and put it together, then maybe him. But straight up, I think Doomsday wins that fight. Let's see. If we ever see Thrawn in a movie, I hope he'll be played by, Lars Mikkelsen. He already voiced him in Rebels. He's a good actor, and it wouldn't take much effort to make him look like Thrawn. I don't know. Just because he voiced him in one thing doesn't mean he'd be good as him in a live action thing. And by the way, while I do think Lars Mikkelsen, who is, by the way, if you recognize the name, Lars is indeed Mads' brother. Anyway, while Lars did do a very good job voicing Thrawn, I'll be honest with you. I just finished listening to the third Thrawn novel. Not Heir to the Empire novels. I mean, the actual new canon novels, right? The third one is called, hold a second, Thrawn Treason is the name of the book. And I'll tell you what, the guy who does the narration, I'm going to see if I can look up the name of the guy. That's the wrong one. Hold on a second. Let me try this again. Let me see if I can get the name of the guy who does the narration. Written by Timothy Zahn. Narrated by a guy named Mark Thompson. Okay. So this guy named Mark Thompson does the narration of the Thrawn novels. He's done all three. And I'll tell you what, now, when I think of Thrawn, the voice that comes in my head is not Lars Mikkelsen. The voice that I get in my head as Thrawn is this guy, Mark Thompson. He does such a great Thrawn voice. Like an absolutely magnificent Thrawn voice. But again, just because he does a good voice doesn't mean I think he should play him in live action. I mean, you can get, there's many great actors. Just make sure you get somebody who can really capture a Thrawn voice and stuff like that. I'll be honest with you, my first pick would not be Lars Mikkelsen, to be honest with you. But I wouldn't be against it either. It's not like I'd be against it, but just because he does a voice for it in a cartoon, I don't necessarily means that that means he should play him in actual live action. But if you wanted to go just on voice, I would go Mark Thompson from the novels, because I'm telling you what, his Thrawn voice is now epitomizes to me the Thrawn voice. So that's just me. All right. Thanks for bringing that up, Andy. All right. Willow Yang writes, congrats on being a millionaire. I know, I found out on the internet the other day that I'm actually this close to being a multi-millionaire, actually. Apparently there's this website that gives the net worth of certain celebrities. So first of all, why I'm on that site, I have no idea. They must be running out of things to talk about. But they listed me as my net worth being $1.5 million, which, spoiler alert, is not true. But anyway, congrats on being a millionaire. You should show your mother-in-law your net worth on the internet to prove that you aren't unemployed. It's true. My mother-in-law still, deep down, my mother-in-law, Anne's mom, still basically believes I'm unemployed. Like, she just, and you know, I understand the nature of my job is very different from any career that would have been around as she was growing up. But it's just even the day Anne and I got married. This is just an example. The day Anne and I got married, we're standing, it's during the reception, and we're standing inside. We just finished cutting the cake, and Anne's mom comes up to me and Anne, and she goes, because I'm Canadian, right? So now I married her daughter, who's an American. So now my mother-in-law comes up and says to Anne, so John can get job now? It's like, and I'm still not sure. I still don't think she fully gets it. But hey, here's what it is. All right, Krypton Cage is like, you do realize, Ma, I pay for Anne's education. You know that, right? Like, anyway. Krypton Cage writes, a dream fast is so cool. I wish humans had it. The world would be a better place if people could find out truth by touching palms. I'm guessing that's again, because like you mentioned earlier, Dark Crystal. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't. I just assume you're talking about Dark Crystal, but I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. The Scum Bag of New York, what's a great name, writes, hey John, fan for over a year, first time writing in. Thanks so much, Scumbag of New York. I love that name. What are your thoughts on Rock of Ages 2012? I think it's terrible, but enjoyably so. I just kind of think it's terrible. You know, I'll say this. That was Alec Baldwin. That was I'm holding. Hold on a second. I think that was out of the Baldwins. I'm kind of, but I think that was Alec who was who's the one in that one. Was it not? Yeah, it was Alec. Okay, yeah. So I just thought it was bad. I didn't think it was like a crime against humanity bad. I didn't think it was a complete dumpster fire bad like some people thought it was. I wish I could say that I at least enjoyed it, but I didn't. I just didn't. Despite the fact that Bryan Cranston's in there, and despite the fact that, what's his name, forgetting Sarah Marshall dude, Russell Brand, despite it, I wish I could say I enjoy, because I do have movies like that I like. Okay, I was just talking about Mortal Kombat, right? It's a terrible movie, but God, I love watching that movie. I love watching that movie, even though it's completely terrible, but I love it. There are movies that are like that, but Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, Scumbag. Rock of Ages is just not one of those films for me. It really is. To me, it's just a poor film. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, dude. That's the subjectivity of film, my friend. Thanks for writing in, man. I appreciate it. All right, let's see here. Orak Usaki writes, I watched the 1989 Pet Sematary and its sequel, 1992 Pet Sematary 2. Not so good. Before watching the 2019 version, and wow, original is way better than the new remake. I'll tell you what, man. I went... one of the reasons why Pet Sematary I'll always remember is because it was one of the best movie theater going experiences I've had in a while. Ann and I, for the first time, we went to this... There's this theater chain called iPic. It's not a huge theater chain. There's only one in the LA area, I think. And it's in Pasadena. And it's an iPic theater. Best movie theater I've ever been in. I mean, on a different level than the Chinese theater, which is grand and has this sense of history to it and is awesome. But the iPic theater, like, you basically have your own private cone that you and whoever you're with sit in, with tables and cubby holes and blankets and pillows, and it stretches right out into a bed and full menu service and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's like the foyer is like a private swanky club with leather furniture everywhere, pool table over here, shelves, as Ron Burgundy would say, filled with many leather-bound books. It's just this really classy feeling place. And anyway, that's the movie we went to go see when we went to iPic, was the new Pet Sematary. And it's awful. I love the trailers. I did. I love the trailers for Pet Sematary. And I was excited about seeing this new one. But oh my God, it's bad. It's one of my worst. It's going to be on my top 10 worst films of 2019. When we get closer to the end of the year and I do my top 10 worst films of the year list, I don't know where exactly on the list is going to be yet, but I'm telling you right now, that new Pet Sematary is going to be on that list. It was just awful. Just awful. And by the way, I'm not a massive fan of the original either. I'm not a massive fan of it, but it's pretty good. It's worlds better. You're absolutely right. I agree with you 1,000%. It is worlds better than the remake. I was not happy with the remake at all. And I'm all for remakes, but this one was terrible. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, Simon Peggs needs to stop sounding exactly like the original Chamberlain. It's freaking me out. Again, I haven't seen it. Haven't seen it yet, so I can't comment on it. I can't comment on it. But that is exciting for me to hear that he said, because that voice of the original Chamberlain, it's just so iconic. It's iconic. Like, you stand around a group of film fans. If you've got a bunch of film fans, like cinephiles, and you're a group of fans you're hanging around, you go around any group of serious film fans and just go, everybody will know what you're talking about. Instantly. Just by making that sound. Everybody will know. Everybody will. It's iconic. That whimper. I hate your whimper. That whimper is so iconic. It's awesome. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear. I haven't seen it yet, but it's good to hear Simon Pegg nails it. All right. Ben Rayner writes, keep one, lose one. PS4 or Oculus Quest. Look, what you should say is keep the PS4. It's far more powerful. Has a lot more games, all that kind of stuff. But to be honest, I would ditch my PS4 at this point. If I had to keep either my Oculus Quest or keep my PS4, I'm ditching the PS4. Just simply because I use my Oculus Quest a hell of a lot more. My PS4 right now is just collecting dust, to be honest with you. It's just collecting dust. I think it was a waste of my money that I bought it. But I'm using my Oculus Quest like every day. I'm playing that stupid Oculus Quest every day. So while the PS4 is better, for me, I would keep my Oculus Quest because I'm actually getting use out of it, and I would ditch the PS4. All right, Ricardo Ramirez writes, hey, John, hope you're having a great something. My gym has its own movie theater, really, with cardio machines and free weights, and today there's two options, Good Boys or Hobbs and Shaw. Which one should I see? They actually let a gym do that? Do me a favor, Ricardo. Do you have to pay extra to go in for it? Well, here's what I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that every time somebody goes in to that thing and they play one of those new release movies, that gym then has to pay pay out to the distributor a certain amount of money that represents the price of a movie ticket. I'm guessing. I would love for you, Ricardo, to send me a link. Can you email me a link to your gym? Just email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. john@thejohncampeashow.com. Send me an email with a link to your gym, because I would love to look into that. There's two options: Good Boys or Hobbs and Shaw. Here, for working out, I'd go Hobbs and Shaw, because also you don't have to pay as much attention to the dialogue in Hobbs and Shaw. You can just watch the action as you're doing your cardio stuff. So, plus, it's more action. It pumps you up. I would recommend Hobbs and Shaw. Although I like both of these movies. I really like both these movies. I thought Good Boys was extremely funny. Hobbs and Shaw was a lot of fun. Neither of these movies are masterpieces by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they're both a lot of fun. But in a gym, I would lean towards Hobbs and Shaw myself. But please, Ricardo, please do email me a link to that gym, because I would love to get some more information on that. All right. JBZ writes, James Belinsky, today is my birthday. Well, happy birthday, James. I hope you have a marvelous day. It's great that your birthday falls on a weekend too, because you can do more stuff. I hope you have a fabulous day, surrounded by friends and family, or surrounded, maybe you just need some much needed me time and you just get to spend it alone and relax. Whatever it is, may you have a great day, and may you have a fabulous rest of your year ahead of yourself, James. Happy birthday, my friend. Then James also writes, I saw The Matrix in Dolby last night. It was amazing. I've been hearing from people going back and watching the re-release of Matrix now, celebrating its anniversary and having a really good time with it. That is great to hear. Again, I've just been too busy to be able to do that. For example, going to a John Williams concert. But I think that sounds great. And everybody I'm hearing from, James, is saying they're really enjoying it. They're saying it really holds up well. And if I get the chance, although I know I'm not going to. I know I'm not going to get a chance. But if I get the chance, that's when I want to run out and see. All right. Orange Grove 55 writes, do you think Matt Smith is in Rise of Skywalker? Well, they say he is. And the most recent news stories I've heard are saying he's still there. See, I thought I heard once that he was no longer going to be in it. They cut him out. But then I saw new reports saying, no, he's still in there. So at this point, I'm going to guess that he's still in it, but I don't know. The bottom line is I don't know. You know, what's listed on IMDb is unreliable for movies that haven't come out yet. I saw conflicting reports, but the latest ones I'm reading is that he's still there. So that's all I have to go on for now. So I'm going to guess, yes, he's still in it. All right. Jesse Lopez writes, there's a report from the website of Fandom Wire that Disney removed all ties from Fox's X-Men from the New Mutants in case Feige wants to set it in the MCU. Still a huge rumor, but any thoughts? I don't buy it. And I don't buy it for a couple of reasons. One, it's not coming from Variety or Deadline or The Hollywood Reporter, so take it with a grain of salt already. But the other thing is this. The entire Fox X-Men thing has always been continuity schmontinuity. It's always been continuity schmontinuity. You know, so I highly doubt there was any real hard connections in. So no, I don't buy that for a second. Plus, with all the rumors going around that they were really struggling with New Mutants and blah blah, I don't think Kevin Feige ever for a moment considered making New Mutants a part of his MCU. I don't think that was ever a consideration. Not in the least. He's not going to take a movie that he had nothing to do with and make it a part of his MCU. No. Kevin Feige's got way too many tight quality control mechanisms in place. He's not doing that. He's not putting a movie that he didn't himself produce and oversee and carefully craft into his MCU. I don't think for a second. I don't buy for a second that was ever a consideration. Not to mention, I've never seen anything tell us that there was ever any definitive connection between New Mutants and the larger X-Men universe anyway. And even if there was, it would always be out of continuity anyway, because there is no continuity in the X-Men films. So for many different reasons, Jesse, I don't buy it. I don't buy that report at all. So that's just my initial, I haven't read the report, but my initial gut reaction, because of all those things I just listed, I don't buy it personally. Personally, I don't buy it. All right. Doesn't mean it's impossible. I'm just saying I don't buy it right now. All right. CJ Dunn writes, John, you must be a thrilled man now that the Dark Crystal series dropped. Haven't had a chance to watch it though yet because I'm waiting for my wife. Trying to get my son into it, but a 2.5-year-old is more into Toy Story for the 100th time. Don't forget Carnival Row dropped too. Not really interested in Carnival Row, to be honest with you. Not really interested. I've been seeing a lot of billboards for it and everything, but I am very interested though in Dark Crystal. So as a matter of fact, Ann and I got home last night. We got home about almost 11 o'clock last night from the concert. And I said to her, we don't have to get up early tomorrow. Do you want to try watching the original Dark Crystal now? She goes, yeah. But I know my wife. And I said to her, are you sure? Because you're going to fall asleep, because she falls asleep when she lays down on the couch. Anytime after 8 o'clock, if my wife lays down on the couch, she's gone. I said, you're probably going to fall asleep. She goes, I'll tell you what, let's just watch like 15 minutes of it. I'm like, okay, great. So we put on the first 15 minutes and I said, how you doing? She goes, yeah, I'm going to fall asleep anytime now. I said, okay, great. We made it through the first 15 minutes. So hopefully by the end of the weekend, I'll be able to get like another half hour or 45 minutes out of her. And then hopefully by Monday or Tuesday, I can actually start watching the new Dark Crystal because I'm dying to watch it. All right. Anyway, Chris Warden writes, you make some good points about why Disney shouldn't break canon and bring Darth Maul back for the Obi-Wan series. But to you, good sir, I counter with this. Continuity, schmontinuity. I want to set it. LOL. I mean, no, but continuity, schmontinuity, that's the Fox thing with X-Men. I don't believe continuity, schmontinuity should be applied to everything. Not at all. I believe continuity should be, if you set up your cinematic universe, whether it's the MCU, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's whatever, if you set up your cinematic universe in such a way that you're saying continuity counts, then you stick with it. With something like Fox and X-Men, they never stuck to continuity. Continuity was never an issue for them in any way, shape, or form. They never worried about it. Hey, we got Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth, but Tyler Mane is Sabretooth. And he's a totally different kind of guy. Who cares? Liev Schreiber, everybody, he's Sabretooth. I mean, they just did that always. It never mattered to them. So for that, I go, okay, then that's cool. They've never adhered to continuity. But in things like the MCU and things like Star Wars, continuity and canon are important. And if you're saying that Rebels is canon and Rebels is part of continuity, and you're saying continuity matters in your cinematic universe, then you can't just go ahead and retcon it. It's there. And you can't retcon it. Continuity, schmontinuity for cinematic universes that have always had that philosophy, but not suddenly for cinematic universes that have said continuity matters. So anyway, that's just the way I see it, Chris. That's just the way I see it at any rate. All right. Benny95 writes, just got back from Hugh Jackman's, so jealous. Just got back from Hugh Jackman's The Man, the Music, the Show, and wow, it was incredible. Was both strange and funny seeing Wolverine tap dancing. There's nothing this man can't do. Proud to be an Aussie. I'll tell you what. First of all, Ann and I bought our tickets for the Hugh Jackman one-man show ages ago. And then we realized, oh crap, that show is during Comic-Con. And we had to cancel. And then we looked at getting tickets to this other show that was in another place that was relatively close to us, but then it's like, oh crap, that's when we're taking our vacation back to Canada to visit my family. So I had twice reserved tickets to see Hugh Jackman in his one-man show, and twice had to get rid of them. I was so dying. I believe, look, I've said this before, Benny, I will say it again. I believe, bar none, Hugh Jackman is the greatest entertainer in the world. Hugh Jackman is the single best overall entertainer in the world. Nobody comes close. He can sing. He's a world-class singer. He's a world-class dancer. He's a world-class Academy Award level kind of actor. He can do it all. He's remarkable. There's nobody else that comes close. Yeah, there are other people who sing and dance and act, but they either suck at acting or they suck at singing or they can't really dance. They just do. Hugh Jackman is exceptional in all of them. All the three of those categories, he's exceptional in. There's nobody else who comes close to Hugh Jackman. He is, I believe, the greatest entertainer in the world right now. I really believe that. And the dude is Wolverine, or at least was, on top of all that. It's crazy. It's unfair. It's unfair, I tell you. All right, Shelley Belly writes, the same website that claimed your 1.5 million net worth also said he has expressive blue eyes. Oh, I do have blue eyes. I have very blue eyes. That much is true. He has expressive blue eyes, which define his personality as a calm. All right. I didn't read that part, but it's interesting to know. I don't know if I should feel weird or if I should feel flattered. It's a little weird, but all right. I'll take it. I'll take any kind of compliment I can get, I suppose. Jonathan Sotelo writes, John, saddest moment upon first viewing. The beginning of Up, the ending of Coco, or the Brooks was here in Shawshank. Look, Brooks was here in Shawshank Redemption was powerful. And it was sad, but it was more of a powerful moment than a sad moment, you know? Because, I mean, we all saw it coming. With the letter and everything, we knew that was coming. It's a powerful, powerful scene. I got to go with the beginning of Up. Man, that movie rips your heart out of your chest 5 minutes into the damn film. And the way it's done and the way it's set up. Oh my God. Like, you're 10 minutes into this film and every man, woman, and child in the place is like, ah! Like they're all bawling their eyes out. The ending of Coco, super moving. I love it. The Brooks was here thing, powerful moment, but I gotta go with the beginning of Up. It's just so, that beginning of Up, man. Jonathan also writes, is there a movie that legitimately gave you the creeps upon first viewing? Oh, yes. For me, it was The Fourth Kind. It gave me nightmares for weeks. Listen, I've said this before, I will say it again. My all-time favorite horror movie that to this day I cannot, as an adult, to this day, it's the only horror movie I can say this about, that I cannot watch at night with the lights off, is American Werewolf in London. To this day, I still can't watch it. That movie came out as a kid. And to this day, I mean, it scarred me. And to this day, I can't. That's the only movie in existence I can't watch at night with the lights off. It's just that. And then my favorite horror movie the last 20 years is The Descent. That movie creeped the hell out of me before the monsters ever showed up. The girls are doing the cave diving. I was freaked. The way they shot that film was so brilliant. I was freaked the hell out before there were even monsters in the movie. I'm like, oh my God. Like the way they do it totally cripples you. It's nuts. But yeah. So overall, American Werewolf in London. Secondly, The Descent. Those movies freaked the hell out of me. Completely creeped me out. All right. Josh's Bizarre Adventure writes, is The Avengers 2012 among your top 30 favorite movies of all time? Yes. Just curious. Keep up the great work. Yes. It's in my top 20. It's in my top 20 all time. It is my number one favorite comic book film of all time. To this day. And look, there are great arguments to be made for, there's great arguments to be made for Logan. There's great arguments to be made for The Dark Knight. There's great arguments to be made for a lot of great movies. But for me personally, for several different reasons, that first Avengers movie is still my all-time favorite comic book movie ever. A lot of arguments. So, and yes, it does also happen to be not just in my top 30, it's in my top 20 favorite films of all time. All right. ZOMG Ruler writes, critics love the hell out of the Joker at Venice. Well, you're right, man. They are just tripping over themselves, gushing about that Joker movie, man. I didn't think the hype machine could get any more hype, but it's getting even more hype, ZOMG. I'm crazy excited for it. Corey Jimenez writes, do you think Sony had a contingency plan with using Spider-Man in their own universe before ever talking with Disney on a new deal and all the drama? Oh, you'd have to be an idiot if you didn't. Like, look, you always have to have those plans. You have to have backup plans. You have to have plan B and plan C. I mean, they would have been incompetent if they did not have a fully planned out. And I tell you what, they had that plan for years. It's like, okay, even when they signed the first deal, okay, Let's start thinking about what we do. We're going to try, if this works, we're going to try to extend the deal with Disney, but Disney wouldn't have it. Disney kicked Spider-Man out of the MCU, so screw them. But Sony, even back then, when they first signed that first deal, they had to go, okay, so when the time comes, hopefully everything works out and we'll extend the deal. But let's start thinking about what we do if the deal doesn't get extended. And they had to have at least been thinking about it for years. So absolutely, Corey, 100%. They had contingency plans ready for what happens if this goes south. What happens if Disney acts completely unreasonably and asks for the impossible and doesn't, and they end the deal? What do we do if Disney ends the deal? They had to at least been talking about. So yes, I do believe they had a contingency. Static Space Sean writes, saw Matrix at Dolby, hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and wow, it still holds up. Dialogue is great. Want to see what 4 can do with today's technology. Again, I am not all that excited about Matrix 4. And I think a lot of people, I'll be honest with you guys, I think a lot of people are looking at this Matrix 4 situation with some pretty rose-colored glasses. Because everybody is really just conveniently ignoring a couple of very big things. Big thing number one, most people didn't like Matrix 2. I did. I like Matrix 2. Most people didn't. That's fine. But almost everybody hated Matrix 3. The Matrix series took a major nosedive after the first one. Okay? Everybody's just conveniently forgetting about that right now. Secondly, I think the Wachowskis, and it's only one Wachowski coming back, by the way. It's not the team. It's only one of them is coming back to do it. But the films they have done, I think, have been utter crap. I think have been absolute crap. So, let's look at this, okay? The movies they've directed in the last little while, we're looking at films like, that was the wrong list. Let me just bring it up here. Okay. I know there are a bunch of you out there that like Speed Racer. Garbage. I thought that movie was garbage. But I know a lot of you like it. I respect that. To me, that movie was absolute garbage. Cloud Atlas was a grand concept that just did not work. Jupiter Ascending is one of the worst films of the decade. Not just one of the worst films of that year. Jupiter Ascending is one of the worst films of the damn decade. So you combine the fact that it's not both of them coming back, it's not the Wachowskis, it's one of them. Big red flag right there. Number two, everybody's conveniently forgetting that the Matrix franchise took a major nosedive after the first one. I still like the second one. Seraph and the twins and all that kind of stuff, but most people don't, and everybody kind of agrees the third one was pretty bad. But the Matrix trilogy took a major nosedive after the first one, and on top of that, the stuff they've directed since then has not been that good. So I cannot get excited for it. I just can't. Now, don't get me wrong. When the movie gets made and it comes out, I'm going to watch it for sure. I'm intrigued by it, and I'll, leave my expectations at the door. I'll go in and I'll judge the movie on its own merits as I do with every film, and hopefully it'll be awesome. But as of right now, I see everybody getting excited about it, and it's like, has everybody got short-term memory loss here? Is everybody just ignoring everything else that has happened since that first Matrix movie? So I don't know. I just can't get excited about it. I just can't get excited about it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Don't misquote me. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying right now, there's just too many red flags that make it that I can't get hyped about it. But we'll see what happens when it actually comes out. All right. S. Beam writes, Dark Crystal, in my opinion, is a visual masterpiece while still paying homage to the original, and I honestly just realized all the talents' voices attached. Yeah, it's an amazing talent list. Again, I haven't seen it yet. I'm not going to see it for at least a few days, but I'm just chomping at the bit to see it. And yeah, I was reading off, I think it was yesterday's show, reading off the cast. The voice cast is one of the most impressive casts ever assembled for anything. It is pretty cool. All right. Corey writes, also, do you think Guy Ritchie deserves more credit on Aladdin? Absolutely. He's the director of the film. 100%. Just feel like I don't hear about him doing a great job as much as Disney. I think part of the reason is because, remember, Aladdin is one of those films that I disagree with a lot of the critics on. Because the Aladdin only got, I think it was around 50%. Hold on a second. Let me see what it got on Rotten Tomatoes here. Yeah, it only got a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I don't understand. Now, that means the majority of critics liked it. The majority of critics gave Aladdin a positive review, but I thought it was quite an exceptional movie. I thought it was a really good, fun, entertaining, wonderful movie. I really do. I think it was great. I don't know if it's going to be my top 10 favorite of the year, but I thought it was great. So I think because of that, that's one of the reasons you're not hearing a lot of talk about the director, but he is the director of the film. He's the one most responsible for what you got in that movie. And yes, I believe Guy Ritchie deserves more recognition for that. Now, Guy Ritchie's also, I'm a little biased because I love Guy Ritchie. He's directed some of my favorite films ever, but I agree with you, Corey. I think he deserves more credit for Aladdin than he gets. I mean, look, rightfully so, all of us talk about Will Smith in that, and deservedly so. Will Smith is brilliant in it. I thought Naomi Scott was great. I thought the music was wonderful. I thought Mina Massoud was a really good Aladdin. I like the dude who played Jafar personally. They played more subtly than the, I'm an evil villain, like he is in the cartoon, which works in the cartoon, but I don't think would have worked in live action. And I understand all that stuff. But yeah, I do think Guy Ritchie deserves more credit than he gets for that. All right. Static Space Sean writes, you have nothing to threaten me with. Nothing to do with all your strength. Joker, my favorite Dark Knight quote. Do you have a favorite, the Dark Knight quote? My favorite Dark Knight quote also comes from the Joker. And it's, I might be misquoting it here a little bit, but my dad always told me, if you're good at something, never do it for free. I love that line. I love that line. If you're good at something, never do it for free. I think that's a great line, dude. That's a beautiful line. All right. Amin writes, may have a chance to go to TIFF next week. Nice. The Toronto International Film Festival. Which film do you think I should try to see? Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Ford v Ferrari, Knives Out, or Joker? Well, I mean, they're all of these films I'm dying to see. I'm dying to see every single one of them. And I am hearing great things about all of them. Knives Out is getting rave buzz right now. Joker, obviously, we just talked about that. Ford v Ferrari looks like an Oscar contender. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood could be the most beautiful movie ever made in the history of mankind. They're all great. Which one comes out last? Ford v Ferrari? I don't know which. I would go see whichever one you would have to wait the longest for to see if you're going to go see it in theaters. That's the one I would go to see. I would look at the release dates, figure out which one, if I don't see it at TIFF, which one will I have to wait the longest to actually go and see, and then go see that one. Because, we don't have to wait very long for Joker. It's like less than a month and a half away. So you won't have to wait very long for that either. So I don't know. That's how I would do it. Since all those films you mentioned look absolutely insanely good, I would go see the one that you would have to wait the longest to go see. Okay, let's see. Let's move on here. There we go. Casinema Reviews writes, Obi-Wan, it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. I've been bringing that up a lot lately. Anakin, yeah? Well, I was on the show Higher Ground. Funny coincidence, isn't it? Was he in the show? I'm not familiar with that. I mean, Hayden Christensen, good Canadian kid, but I'm not familiar with a show called Higher Ground. If that's true, that is a funny coincidence. I've never even heard of it, but if that's true, that is a funny coincidence. I like that. Thanks for bringing that up, Casinema. All right, Daniel Haygood writes. Where do we go? Daniel Haygood writes, Andy Muschietti confirmed he's doing Flash. Yes, he did. I think this one sticks. Last time we talked about the studio being too wishy-washy with its creative team. I honestly don't know. I mean, we are now, I believe, my count could be off, but I believe with Andy Muschietti now, this is the 4th director that's been attached to this movie. Wah, wah. Not to mention all the writers that have come and gone on it, but I believe this is the 4th director. All the ridiculous nonsense that went through with the last set of directors, that they had their script, they had their movie, and all of a sudden the studio threw them under the bus because Ezra Miller wanted to write his own script. Why the fuck were they listening to Ezra Miller? And I like Ezra Miller's Flash. Love Ezra Miller's Flash, as a matter of fact. I'm a fan of Ezra Miller's Flash. But what the hell was he doing opening his mouth in the first place? Second place, why was the studio letting him take a shot at writing the script? They totally undermined the directors, and the director said, okay, then we're out of here. If you're going to throw us under the bus like that, we're gone. And sure enough, they were gone. And now they're bringing in another director. I have no idea. I honestly think there's a 70% chance that within 2 months we get the Andy Machete is now off the Flash because of creative differences. I mean, look, hopefully this one sticks. Hopefully it does, Daniel. I've been wanting to see a Flash movie ever since I saw Justice League. I know not everybody loved Justice League. I know not everybody loved Ezra Miller's Flash in Justice League. I did, though. I actually quite enjoyed his Flash. And I've been looking forward to seeing a movie with him. But I don't know. Look, we are now at a point, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but we're at a point now with this Flash movie where we are firmly in the talk to me when it's actually happening. Like, I'll believe it when I see it. Like, when they announce we've officially begun principal photography on the movie, we're actually shooting the movie now, then I'll believe it. Until then, I just can't. I'm just not going to buy it until it's actually happened. So I'll believe it when I see it. Stephen Joseph just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. Orange Hand writes, does subjectivity factor into accepted norms of good and bad? Example, a writer's dialogue is too on the nose, but won't change it because he thinks it's good. Well, of course, listen, what do you mean by too on the nose? It's up to an individual person as to whether it strikes them as too on the nose or not. See, I had some guy last night again trying to tell me that, no, this movie is objectively better than that one. It's not subjective, it's objectively better. I'm like, okay, prove it. Go ahead. Prove it. And if you can't prove it, then it's subjective. So you can say, like, so I can watch a movie where dialogue to me, and I'll complain, that dialogue was way too on the nose. It was way too on the nose. But that doesn't mean you would have watched it and felt the same way. Maybe you watched the same scene I did, and for you, it was like, I don't know, I thought it was more subtle than you're making it. It hit me as being more subtle than you're making it out to be, Campea. Whereas to me, I watched and I'll say, look, are you crazy? Every little thing was, I am the evil man. I want to destroy everything. Mwahaha. You know, and all the dialogue was so on the nose. And then, but you could watch and go, I don't know, it didn't play that way to me. So it's even that is subjective. So like when I talk about a film, I'll talk about it in terms of and in light of my experience with it. I thought the jokes were funny. Somebody else might have thought they weren't funny, but to me, it was funny. So I'll talk about it from the framework of my experience with it. Good Boys was hilarious. The jokes were sharp and great. The kids were really fun to watch. The story was a little lame. They tried to make it have heart and it didn't work, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I'll say about the movie. But you guys all understand that as I'm saying all that about the movie, that's from the point of view and from the framework of my experience with the movie. You may go in and watch the same movie and say, well, wait a minute, Campea said the jokes were really funny. I didn't think they were funny. Campea said he didn't think it had any heart. I thought it did have heart. You know, so it's all from the framework of our own point of view. Again, objectivity only comes into place when it can be scientifically measured by quantifiable data. You can say, I am 5'11". Well, you can take a scientific measurement with quantifiable data and measure me to confirm that I am 5'11". That is not subjective, that is objective truth. Water, under normal circumstances, freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. Right now, my American friends are going, what? What's Celsius? But just follow me in the rest of the world. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. You can measure that. You can use quantifiable information to measure that and prove that fact. It's not subjective, it's objective, it's been measured and scientifically measured, it's proven, it freezes at 0. Water, under normal circumstances, will boil at 100 degrees Celsius. That's measurable. That's quantifiable. That is provable data. Anything that isn't quantifiable, anything that can't be scientifically measured, is by definition subjective. So take two Olympic sports, 100-meter dash. Okay. You can objectively tell who is the fastest. The guy who crossed the finish line first. You can measure his time using a clock, using scientific devices. Boom, that guy's fastest. But now take another Olympic event, like gymnastics. Well, then you have to have judges who will sit down and each give it a different score because it's how they interpret it. It's their subjective opinion about how that gymnast did it. And so judges will give it a score. And then whichever athlete got the judges to give it its highest scores, that's the person that gets the gold medal. But it's based on subjective criteria. So yeah, subjectivity, Orange, absolutely comes into it. Because you say, the writer's dialogue was too on the nose. According to who? Who said that writer's dialogue was all on the nose? Can you quantifiably prove it? Is there a scientific measurement that says this was on the nose or it wasn't on the nose? So yeah. So look, there are still accepted norms and all that kind of stuff is true, but we got to understand it's still subject to the principles of subjectivity. It is what it is. Jamie Sundays writes, I'm very curious to their showing Joker on 70mm when it's filmed on digital. I'm going to read it one more time, Jamie. Sorry about this. I'm very curious to their showing Joker on 70mm when it's filmed on digital. I got to be honest, Jamie, I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking. Are you asking how are they showing it on 70mm when it was filmed on digital? Well, you can just do a digital transfer. You can just do a transfer to 70mm. But I don't know if that's what you're asking. I'm sorry about that, Jamie. I apologize. You're asking what is probably a really interesting question. I'm not quite sure how you're asking it. So my apologies, Jamie. All right. Last question I'm going to take, and then we've gone a little bit over an hour now, guys. I'm going to take this last question, then we're going to take a short break while I go refill my soda, give my voice a break, maybe use the bathroom quickly. So last one we're going to do here. This one comes to us from Lincoln Johnson, who writes, same writer for The Fighter and same composer from Chernobyl are involved with Joker, and the reviews are outstanding, so pumped. I mean, look, the stuff coming out about Joker is mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. I'm just thrilled to see what we're seeing. To having like outlets coming out and saying 10 out of 10, multiple critics are coming out and saying, using the word masterpiece. Again, this is just one group of people. All right? It's just one group of people. Maybe I'll see it, maybe you'll see it, and we'll feel differently. But if in the world of is this a good sign or is this a bad sign, this is a pretty damn good sign, and I'm excited to see it. All right, guys, we're now going to take a short little break. We're just going to take about 5 quick minutes here so I can run use the bathroom, rest my voice up for a minute, refill my soda. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back. Hang tough, guys. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes. If anybody jumps into the show and you're watching live and says, hey, wait a minute, where's the show? Just let everybody know we're taking a quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes, guys. We'll see you in just a moment. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and allowing me to go refill my drink, rest up the vocal cords for a minute. But let's keep on pushing on here now and start getting back to the live questions you guys have sent in as we carry on with our show today. Let's see, we already got to Lincoln Johnson. Steven Joseph writes, what other MMA promotions do you watch? To be honest, none right now. None right now. Now, I used to watch Strikeforce, WEC, Pride, all that kind of stuff, but it's really just UFC that I watch right now. Bellator is trying to get going, and they're doing some good things now, but like the last year or two, they've just really undermined themselves by like having, Frank Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz. Like, really, these guys were relevant 20 years ago. Or Liddell, did they just do Liddell and Tito again? Like, really? That would have been an interesting fight 15 years ago. And so, yeah, it's hard to take them seriously right now. But I will say, they're doing some interesting things right now. They've got a great 2-division champion right now in Ryan Bader, who used to be in the UFC. And I always thought Bader was a really underrated fighter. Really underrated fighter. They've signed some really good guys, former UFC guys that are still in really good fighting shape. They're getting better, but for right now, really the only game in town for me is UFC at the moment. Here's hoping Bellator continues to improve, though. Jamie Sundays writes, The Lighthouse, 1917, and The Joker, the Holy Trinity. It's funny. Ann and I were in a movie the other night. What did we go see? What did we just go see? Holy hell, what did Ann and I just go see? I can't remember now. But anyway, we were sitting in the movie theater, and they played the trailer for... Oh my God. Anyway, they played the trailer for Lighthouse, but now it's killing me here. What did we just go see? Oh, that's right. We went to go see The Farewell at the Alamo Drafthouse in Los Angeles. So we went to go see The Farewell there, and they played the trailer for the Lighthouse, which I thought it was really cool. I think the trailer for Lighthouse is really cool. And my wife's face was like, what is this? It looks way too weird. And look, while I think the trailer for The Lighthouse looks really cool, you got to admit, it's not going to be for everybody, right? But that sounds like a really good lineup of films to be looking forward to, Jamie. All right, Justin Williams writes, IGN just reviewed Joker and gave it a 10 out of 10. Good for them. All right. Let's put it this way. I don't often find myself in agreement with a lot of IGN's ratings. That's not to say, though, that doesn't mean my ratings are right and their ratings are wrong. Not at all. I mean, it's all subjective. Their ratings could much more align with yours or whatever. But like, who at IGN rated it? IGN didn't rate it 10 out of 10. One person in particular, I'd be curious to know who the critic is. But again, they're not alone, right? It's not just IGN. It's a lot of other critics are saying this thing is a masterpiece and all that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff to be excited about here. Josh Angelis writes, thoughts on Ad Astra? It looks great. I mean, I haven't seen the film, but I think the concept is great. I love the people involved behind the camera. I love the talent involved in front of the camera. You know, Tommy Lee Jones, Donald Sutherland, Brad Pitt. I mean, what's not to be excited about? And I think the trailers have been really good. So I haven't seen the movie, so I can't get my thoughts on it, but I'm excited about it. RSN2277 writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, RSN. Did you see the I Love Lucy color special on theater for one day? It was funniest and best experience I've had in years, other than better than Avengers better than Avengers films in the last 2 years. Did you see the box office for that? It got number 6 for the day and number 3 for most money made for each theater. With the success, will studios put in I Love Lucy episodes in theaters again? No, I did see a promo for it. By the way, I Love Lucy, there are a few shows. A lot of older comedies like that don't hold up today. But I Love Lucy, when I stumble across an old rerun of I Love Lucy, it's still funny. When I run across old reruns of the Carol Burnett Show with like Corman and Tim Conway and stuff like that, it's still funny. And I Love Lucy is definitely one of those. So no, I hadn't seen all that kind of stuff. I have no personal plans of going to go see it in theaters myself. But I love it when movie theaters will do special events like that. Like, hey, we're going to revisit this iconic thing of I Love Lucy. I think that's great. That's great. Why not do something like that? Now, whether they'll do it for more I Love Lucy things, I don't know. Maybe they'll just say, hey, this was a one-shot thing. That's why it works. We don't want to go back to the well one too many times. Possible. But I think it's great when they do stuff like this. And it's even better when they have a little bit of success. So that's fantastic, man. I'm glad you had a chance to see that. I hope they do more stuff like that. I really do. All right. Kenneth Colton writes, so John, since you don't use your PS4 Pro, can I buy it? Autograph included, of course. Hope you and everyone in the live chat are having a great weekend. My weekend is still just starting. It's only 12:30 in the afternoon here. 12:39, I should say, in the afternoon here. But I am having a wonderful weekend so far. And I got to figure out what to do with my PS4. I got to figure out what to do with it. Because part of me thinks, just get into it. Start playing some of the games on there more. But my problem has always been trying to use the damn controllers. My brain isn't wired to use these controllers. They're just not. My brain is wired to use a keyboard and mouse. And I get very frustrated very quickly playing a video game with one of these. I get unless it's something like Mario Kart or something that's very, rudimentary and very basic. You just use the one joystick and a couple of the buttons and you're good. But other than that, I find myself getting very, very frustrated. And oh man, when I get frustrated, it's ugly. And I don't have a lot of patience once I get frustrated. Once I get frustrated, my patience goes out the window. So like, I'll be playing Spider-Man for like 5 minutes and I'm like, why, how can I do that? Oh, fuck this. And I just put the controller down and I walk away. I don't have a lot of patience for sitting down and figuring it out. It's like, okay, if I can't figure it out in about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like, F this, and I walk away from it. As a matter of fact, there was a PC game recently, because I usually pick up PC games a lot faster. But there was a PC game recently that I tried playing called Original Sin 2 Divinity, or Divinity Original Sin 2. And I bought it because everybody was raving about it. And I went and got it, and I couldn't figure it out in like 5 minutes. Which I know you're all yelling at, Campea, you got to have more patience than that. It takes a while to figure out a game. I know. But even a PC game, like most PC games I pick up very quickly, but even a PC game like Divinity, which I still have the shortcut to on my desktop here, I played for about 5-10 minutes and I'm like, I can't figure this game out. Fuck it. And I put it down and I never played it again. I bought it, played it for about 10 minutes, couldn't figure it out, turned it off, and I've never played it again since. It's horrible. It's horrible. So a part of me thinks, I invested so much money in buying this PS4, the PS4 Pro. John, just set some time. And the other part of the problem is I don't have a lot of time, but still, John, set some time aside and just sit down with one of the games, maybe Spider-Man, maybe one of the other ones, and just commit that you're just going to play it for like 2 hours, no matter how frustrated you get, and you're just going to keep trying to figure it out. And if you do, and you probably will, and then you'll enjoy it, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard for me to get myself to do it. It's one of those quirks about me. It's a character flaw. I completely admit it. It's an absolute character flaw. And I recognize it. But I got to figure out what to do. I either got to sell this thing or I got to actually start using it. It's one of the two. I got to start playing it or I got to get rid of it. I just been hesitant to do either, but I got to figure it out, Kenneth. All right. Alan Patino writes, have you seen the leaked Birds of Prey trailer? Yeah. It was like what it was. There's a little leaked version. It stumbled across my Twitter feed. And it's just one of those, a cam version of a Russian version of the Birds of Prey thing. Nothing special. To me, it was nothing special. So, but then again, maybe once, the real thing comes out and I'm actually able to see it in HD and all that kind of stuff, maybe I'll feel differently, but I didn't think anything much of it. Luna Star just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Luna Star. Appreciate that, dude. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, Joker reviews are glowing so far, beyond glowing, man. Like I said, we're seeing 10 out of 10s. We're hearing the phrase by multiple critics using the phrase masterpiece for it. It's like, how good is this movie? I'm getting excited. Lone Wolf X6 writes, those were $500 sunglasses. Asshole. Oh, what was that from? Those were $500 sunglasses. I'm freezing on it, Lone Wolf. I'm freezing. If you guys know what the reference is, Lone Wolf, just put it. I'm freezing on that one. I can totally see it in my head, but I'm freezing on it. All right. A fan of Peanuts writes, hey, John, how's your day going? So far, so good, a fan. I'm aware you don't usually do these. Pretty important question, man. Do you use a financial advisor on a 401k plan, or do you do it on your own? I trust your opinions. Thanks. Well, remember, I'm not American. I mean, so things like 401ks and blah is a little bit foreign to me. I'll be honest with you how I'm handling it. This is how Ann and I handle it. And maybe I'm giving away too much information. Ann's uncle is actually a big executive banker dude. And he does a lot of stuff with financial planning for people and all this kind of stuff. So he just tells us what to do. He just tells us what to do. And right now, the way Ann and I mostly do it is Ann puts away most of her money and I pay for most things. So, I mean, look, the way Ann and I approach it is it's all our money. The money she makes at her job, the money I make at my job, it's all our money. So the way we've kind of arranged it is we put a very large, larger than most people. We have a chunk of Ann's paycheck goes directly into like 401k and savings and investments and things like that, all managed by her uncle. And then most of our living expenses and things like that, I pay for. So like we pay for most of our living stuff out of my accounts, out of my job and my income, and then we save most of it. So, I mean, we could balance it out where I save a bit and she saves a bit and I pay for a bit of our expenses and she pays for a bit of our expenses. What we just found works for us is that she puts a greater portion of her stuff into our savings and then I will pay for most of our living stuff out of my things and not put much away into savings myself. Because it's just all our money anyway. So that's just the way we handle it. That's just the way we handle it. But I am not a financial advisor at all. Like I said, we got Ann's uncle. Her uncle just tells us what to do with our stuff. And we just hand him our money and he manages it for us. So so I'm the wrong guy to ask. Fan of Peanuts. I am totally the wrong guy to ask. Let's see here. Where are we at? Lone Wolf XX writes, Johnny Cage was, that was Johnny Cage. That's right. Well put. That was Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage was great in Mortal Kombat, by the way. I love that character in there. I'm going to give it a shot, Phil. Phil Lemcool writes, while I agree with your thoughts on not having Darth Maul in the Obi-Wan series as it angers the canon gods based on the timeline, could we get to a point where that changes with multiple seasons of the show? Well, no, because look, it's not just that Maul doesn't even find out that Obi-Wan is still alive until 9 years after the events of this Obi-Wan show. Because remember, this Obi-Wan show happens 11 years before the events of Star Wars A New Hope. In canon, according to Rebels, Maul doesn't even find out Obi-Wan's alive until 2 years before the events of Star Wars A New Hope. But even if you wanted to do multiple seasons of Obi-Wan, and I don't think that, remember, Disney Plus is not looking at these things as regular TV shows where you do season 1, then you do season 2, then you do season 3. They're really looking at these as singular events. I honestly don't think Falcon and Winter Soldier I don't think WandaVision is going to get a season 2. WandaVision is considered a 6-part event. So we can't think of these Disney Plus shows in terms of traditional television seasons. Some of them may get a part 2, but many of them won't. But even if Obi-Wan has a tremendously successful 6-part event, and they want to do another one. In canon, even if the Obi-Wan series catches up to 2 years before the events of Star Wars A New Hope, where Maul finds him, it's only a 2-minute scene. Maul finds him on Tatooine, they talk for a second, they have a 20-second fight, and then Maul dies. That's it. So even if you wanted to do that, you could only have Darth Maul for one scene. That's it. 1 2-minute scene, because that's canon. He finds him, they talk for a second, they fight, Maul dies, end of it. And it all takes place over the course of about 2 minutes. So even if the events of Obi-Wan catch up to 2 years before Star Wars A New Hope, and you get to that timeline, then Maul is just you'll literally be watching like episode 5, and Obi-Wan's in the middle of doing something else, and then Maul jumps out, fight, kill Maul, done, dead, there. So no, there's just no way to do it. Not if you're maintaining canon, which Star Wars claims to be doing. And if you are, there's no way. And by the way, who cares about Darth Maul? I love the Darth Maul character. I do, clearly. I love the Darth Maul character. But why do we have to just bring in things that we already know? How about we use this Obi-Wan series to have new characters and new stories and new threats? Why does everything have to be, oh, let's do this from this old movie, and let's do this from that old movie, and let's bring in this from the old TV show? Why? Why not take the opportunity? Why can't we as fans just celebrate that this Obi-Wan series is giving us an opportunity that while we have Obi-Wan as our anchor, that is new villains and new challenges and new stories for him? You know? So, number one, they can't use him if they're trying to stay, because if they did use him, it would only be for a 2-minute scene, because that's canon. Beyond that, why do fans want him back? Why don't we celebrate the idea of new stuff? Now, I get it. Darth Maul's a great character, so I understand on that level. But let's hope that they bring in new stuff and not just recycled old stuff that we've already seen and done. You know, we had Maul in one of the movies. Then we had Maul in Clone Wars. And then we had Maul in Rebels. Then we even had a little bit of Maul in Solo. Let's just move on. Let's move on. That's kind of how I feel about it at any rate. But that's just me, Phil. Okay. Omar... Raymond writes, Kevin Feige to Warner Brothers, possible in the next decade. Totally. Listen, when Kevin Feige decides it's time to move on from Marvel, because he has no real challenges left at Marvel. He's done it all. He's accomplished everything. There is nothing else he can do at Marvel that will be a greater challenge than what he's already done. It's just that simple. And I know Kevin Feige is going to be looking for the next mountain to climb. So whenever that happens, be it in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, what will he do? Well, there are going to be studios that offer him head of studio. So Kevin Feige to go and run Warner Brothers is a possibility. Yep. Absolutely, it's a possibility. As I said on the show the other day, though, I think it's more likely that Alan Horn is grooming him to take over Alan Horn's job. So I think that's more likely. I don't know that that's what's going to happen. I just think it's more likely. And then Kevin Feige will be overseeing everything at Disney as far as the movies go. He'll be overseeing Marvel. He'll be overseeing Lucasfilm. He'll be overseeing Pixar. He'll be overseeing Disney Pictures. He'll be overseeing Disney Animation. And I think that makes more sense. But barring that, I could totally see him going and being made like chief creative officer and CEO of Warner Brothers. I could totally see Universal giving him their chief job. I could totally see Paramount giving him their chief job. That's the next step for him, is running a studio, and not just an arm of a studio. Like Marvel is just one branch of Disney Pictures. I think the next thing he's going to be doing is heading a studio, period. And that could be Warner Brothers. But it could also still be at Disney and running all of Disney Pictures. We'll have to wait and see. Luna Star 1407 writes, do you think... sorry, I missed one here. Robert Richmond writes, a herd of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's my favorite. Nope. Sorry about that, Robert. I can honestly say I'm not familiar with it. Is that a series? Is that a movie? Is that a book? I have no idea what that is, to be honest with you. But I'm sure a bunch of people in the chat board do know what it is, and they're probably cheering what you just said, Robert. All right. Luna Star 1407 writes, do you think Amazon will continue the trend of inserting profanity and nudity into their shows into the new Lord of the Rings show. Want to watch new series with my kid. Well, first of all, let's be clear, Luna Star. Amazon is not inserting profanity and nudity into their shows. That's just a natural part of their shows. The stories that they tell, it makes sense that these characters would swear. It makes sense that there would be nudity in this scene. They're not just inserting it in. It is naturally a part of their stories. So let's be clear about that. Do I think they'll do that with Lord of the Rings? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Lord of the Rings already has a tone to it. Lord of the Rings already has a tone to it. And nah, I really don't think so. I don't think they will, because it's not a natural part of it like it is with those other series. We've already got precedent set for what Lord of the Rings is like and what the world is like and what the tone is like. And that's what they're going for. And if that's what they're going for, that generally doesn't include a lot of profanity or nudity. So no, but again, Lunastar, I think you're starting from a flawed premise that Amazon just comes out of nowhere and inserts profanity in. No, that's just a natural part of their things. Like if you look at a show like The Boys, well, if you look at the source material, there's a lot of swearing and a lot of nudity in that. And so that's just a natural part of that thing's show. So that's in there. It's a natural part of it. And that same argument is why I don't think it'll be in Lord of the Rings, because that's not a natural part of Lord of the Rings. So I don't think they will. I think Lord of the Rings is something that is celebrated over generations with multi-generational appeal, and I think they're going to try to draw on that for this new series. So it's going to be their Lord of the Rings without being like it's going to be their Game of Thrones without being like Game of Thrones. So no, I don't think they will. I don't think we're going to see a lot of language or nudity. I mean, maybe the odd shot of a centaur. There's no centaurs. But I'm saying, the odd shot of some mythical creature that's maybe topless for us. I don't know. Maybe that'll be in there. But for the most part, I really don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to make the show that the family can watch together. I really do. All right. Is the Third writes, reviews are starting to come in about the Joker film. Critics are giving it high regard. It's not just high regard is the Third. They're giving it ludicrously high reviews. Terms like 10 out of 10, masterpiece, all that kind of stuff. It's not just the critics saying, hey, this is good, like they're saying about It Chapter 2. Critics are saying, hey, It Chapter 2 is good, man. It's good. Not great, but it's good. That's not the Joker here, dude. They're saying masterpiece. There's like Oscar buzz coming out. That's how high it is. Now, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. We'll find out for ourselves soon enough. But it's looking pretty damn good, my friend. It's looking pretty damn good. A fan of Peanuts writes, John, with all the upcoming news with Dungeons & Dragons, Star Wars Trilogy, Mandalorian, Obi-Wan, and Star Wars Episode, I think you probably meant 9, not 11. Is there a possibility of bringing back Star Wars talk? It's possible. I used to do a show called Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. But unlike Weekly Hero, which is coming back, unlike Weekly Hero, in which I have the perfect co-host in Robert Meyer Burnett, I have never been able to find the perfect co-host for Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. And I don't want to do the show solo. Doing show solo on the weekend, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it takes a serious hard toll on my voice. Like my throat is, at the end of every Saturday and Sunday, my throat's killing me. It really is. Like at least with a movie talk, back in the AMC days, I had a table of other people who could talk while I rested my voice. When I do the John Campea Show, I have other people in here, whether it's Robert and Chris or Aaron, whatever, that throughout the show, even though if it goes a couple of hours, I'm talking, but then I stop talking so Robert can talk, and I'm resting my voice. Even then, that takes a toll on my throat. But these shows solo, oh, dude, I'm telling you, at the end, when I'm done an episode of Open Mic, I literally just go lay down for a while. I really do. I just go lay down for a bit. And people wonder why I'm constantly drinking. Well, because I've got to. People don't appreciate it. It's like, but John, I listen to radio shows where they'll do like a 3-hour show. Yes, with a 3-minute commercial break every 15 minutes with other co-hosts. When I'm doing open mic, I'm talking me straight, nonstop for about an hour and 20 minutes. Then I take a 5-minute break, 1 5-minute break, and then talk for another hour. It takes its toll. It really does. So I don't want to do a Star Wars show solo. I need to find the perfect host who is a combination of really good on-camera communicator and really, really Star Wars knowledgeable. And it is surprising how few those are. I know a lot of people who are very Star Wars knowledgeable, but maybe not the best on-camera communicator. I know a bunch of people who are great on-camera communicators, but maybe not the most knowledgeable Star Wars people. It's a small pool of people. And then out of that small pool, I got to think, who would I even be interested in having a show with? I'll tell you this. I have begun talking to somebody. I'm not going to say who, but I have begun talking to somebody about the possibility of coming and doing Star Wars Talk Tuesdays again. And when I say again, they weren't on it before. I'm just saying again as in me starting it up again. And again, I'm not going to say who this person is, but I think I might have found somebody I'm interested in doing this with. And me and this person have been talking a little bit, and they're interested and I'm interested. It's just a matter of finding the right timing. So Star Wars Talk Tuesday, I'll tell you this right now, Star Wars Talk Tuesday, I think there's a good chance that Star Wars Talk Tuesday is back before Star Wars Episode 9 comes out. I think there's a half decent chance that Star Wars Talk Tuesday will be back before Star Wars Episode 9 comes out. Maybe in like October or November. But again, I don't want to say for sure. My schedule is incredibly tough and busy. We've been having Robert and I are planning on bringing the Weekly Hero back, but it's been tough for us to get that going just because of our schedules. It's hard. But we're going to try to get Star Wars Talk Tuesday back. I think I may have found a person. But now we will just have to wait and see how it all goes. All right. Anyway, Count Drago writes, your thoughts on Andy Muschietti directing The Flash? Well, I've talked about it ad nauseum. We talked about it on the show the other day. It's just simply, look, I like it. He's a gifted storyteller. So is he the first guy I would pick to direct Flash? No. But is he one of the directors that you could have mentioned that I'd go, okay, he's a good director. I'm down with it. He's one of those. I'm down with it. It's just that I'm at the point that I don't necessarily believe it's going to happen. He's like the fourth director they've brought in for this, and it never happened. So I will believe it when I see it. That's. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying I'm not going to buy into it until it's actually happening. Once they're actually shooting the movie, then I'll believe it. Until then, though, I'm just going to wait and see. All right, Ben Rayner writes, I know you don't think they should, but do you think Disney will put Vader in the Obi-Wan series? No, I don't think they will. I really don't think they will. It's not a 0% chance. It's not zero. There's a chance, but I think it's unlikely. I don't think they will. So I'm going to go under 25%. I think it's closer to like 10%. So I will take the under on 25%. It's a low number, but I'll still go even lower than. I'll say it's probably around 10%. Artur Mansouri writes, oh, sorry, another little bit of a jump. Where did Artur go? There he is. Artur Mansouri writes, I'm an AMC Burbank 16 moviegoer, and I love the IMAX experience over Dolby. If IMAX Theater would get recliners, would you prefer it over Dolby too? No. That is part of it. That's part of it. I do love AMC Prime's motorized leather recliners. I love them. But that's only part of it. To me, that patented Dolby dual laser projection system is simply the best image on a screen I've ever seen. The Dolby dual laser projector is simply the best image I've ever seen on a screen, and that includes IMAX. Because the colors are way better. It's super sharp. It's the deepest blacks. It's the richest colors. It's the brightest whites without blowing out. It's just the best image I've ever seen in a movie theater. On top of that, you got Dolby Atmos, the sound system in there, which is an incredibly fantastic sound thing. So you combine that experience of the dual laser projector, the incredible comfort of the recliner leather seats, on top of the surround sound system that they have. It's just the overall. So no, and I love the IMAX experience. I do. I think IMAX is great. I love IMAX. But even if you put in leather recliners in the IMAX theater, I still prefer the Dolby Prime. That is, to me, the best movie-going experience, in my opinion. But hey, different people, I know a lot of other people are tour that really, really cherish that IMAX experience, and for good reason. But just for me, it's those factors outweigh the other ones for me personally. So that's me. But I do love that AMC Burbank 16 theater, man. I'm there all the time. If you ever bump into me there, make sure you come up and say hi, dude. All right, Django19 writes, everyone has their favorite sad moments. With Up, Toy Story 3 and 4, Coco, Inside Out. Oh, Inside Out is such a good one. But the one who gets me ugly crying every time is, Fox and the Hound. Oh, I love Fox and the Hound. You know what? First of all, Django, you may be I might be wrong here, but I think you might be the first person ever in the history of the various John Campea shows to bring up Fox and Hound. Which, good on you. Fox and Hound is so brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Django, for bringing that up. I love that movie. If you haven't seen that classic animated film, The Fox and the Hound, sit down and watch it with somebody. It's a special movie. It's a special ugly cry. I like the way you put that too, Django. Ugly crying. I'm so glad you brought that up, man. All right, Django19 also writes, 5 more days till the NFL season starts. Oh, you know, it's funny. Ann and I, we went to the John Williams concert last night, which is at the Hollywood Bowl, which is just like a half mile up from the Hollywood and Highlands Center. So Ann and I went to the Hollywood and Highlands Center yesterday to grab dinner first. And we're sitting there, and there was a college football game on. I think it wasn't Michigan. I think it might have been, it wasn't Michigan. It was the other Michigan team. They're ranked like 18. I can't remember if they were playing Vanderbilt or something. Anyway. And I'm like, I'm so glad football is back. And Anne's like, I know, I've been waiting for you to get really excited about football. I'm like, I'm so excited about football coming back. Because Anne knows, when football season is here, my Sundays are a write-off. Like, my Sundays are a total write-off when football season's here. And she knows that. And I actually think I'm going to try to get Sunday ticket this year, too. I'm going to watch a lot of football, dude. I'm so stoked that football's back. It's going to be a weird year for me, though, because this is not going to be the year of the Patriots. You know, at some point, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, is going to start to slow down. You don't got, they don't have Gronk anymore. It's a different team now. This is not going to be the year of the Patriots. I'll still be cheering for them because that's my team right now, but I don't think this is going to be their year. So it's going to be a wide open year. It's going to be a wide open year this year. I mean, look, the Rams are going to be a hell of an entertaining team to watch. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, everybody's going to be watching them. How's Drew Brees going to do? You know, being a 40-year-old dude approaching the 40, still doing it at a high level with the Saints. How's that going to be? What kind of year, you know, are the Giants going to be able to rebound after the disaster? How good will the Cleveland Browns actually be this year? I mean, a lot. It's going to be an interesting season, my friend. It's going to be an interesting season. I'm so excited for it. All right, S. Beam writes, dude, that howl from American Werewolf, creepy. Oh, my God. First of all, the physical transformations, the sound effects, everything about that movie, American Werewolf in London, my friend, is completely designed to destroy your mental sanity. It's completely designed to just cast you into creepiness and fear. It's so good. It's so brilliant. I'm glad you brought up the sound, because the sound is an underrated thing about that movie, man. The house, but even the sounds of the physical transformations, all designed to be creepy as hell. Creepy as hell. Okay, let's see. Andreas Giannakopoulos just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Andreas. Drax5 writes, fun fact, Robert D. Moore was the writer for DS9 and Battlestar Galactica. He said DS9 had a major influence on Battlestar Galactica. By the way, it's Ronald D. Moore, just to be clear. Ronald D. Moore's, let me just bring this up here. And by the Battlestar Galactica, Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica is my all-time favorite television show. Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica, not to be confused with the original Battlestar Galactica starring Lauren Green. Not to be confused with that, but Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica is my all-time #1 favorite show ever in the history of television. And it wasn't just DS9. He wrote some other Star Trek stuff too. And yeah, he does. He has talked before about the influence Star Trek had on his Battlestar Galactica. But Battlestar Galactica is just, in all of sci-fi, not just television, even movies, some of the best mythology ever. The history of the colonies, there's a supernatural element to it and mythology, all wrapped up into this big sci-fi. It's amazing. I love it. And even when you go back and watch the original Battlestar Galactica, by the way, with Lauren Green, was way ahead of its time of incorporating mythology into sci-fi. It was so far ahead of its time, particularly with the mythology of the colonies and the lost colonies and all that kind of stuff. Amazing, amazing stuff, Dax. So thanks for bringing that up, dude. You're absolutely right. All right. Where are we at here? Andreas writes, hi, John. Great show, man. Thank you so much. Good job. Do you believe the new Joker reboot will reboot the DC universe? No. The Joker movie is not meant to be the beginning of a new universe. The Joker movie is this is one of the things I'm most excited about. The Joker movie is a true, pure standalone film. A pure, true, standalone in its own isolated universe, not connected to any franchise, not connected to any cinematic universe film. It is not meant to be the reboot of a new universe. It's not meant to be any of that. It is meant to be a true, pure, standalone movie. Now, that's not to say it's impossible that they ever do a sequel. I mean, they've already said, sure, it's possible they could do a sequel, but it's not a new shared cinematic universe. It's not the rebooting of a franchise. It's meant to be a true, great standalone movie experience. And that's one of the things I love about the notion of this movie. Because everything, and don't get me wrong, I love franchises. I love shared cinematic universes. I do. But I'm so sick and tired of everything has to be shared cinematic universe. Wait, I don't get it. How does Joker tie into the Aquaman movie? It doesn't. And it doesn't need to. I'm so sick of that. So sick of it. The fact that we're finally getting some standalone stories again, to me, is amazing, and I'm so excited about that. So no, this is not a reboot to the DC universe. It's not a reboot at all. S. Beam writes, it's not a traditional wolf howl. Love that movie. Oh, it's true. No, and there's a lot about American Werewolf in London, buddy. So much about it that is not true, which is part of the reason why it shocked me. It continues to this day to shock me. That is a movie that still shocks me as I watch it. It's the only movie ever that even now as a grown-ass man, I cannot watch at night in the dark with the lights out. Still can't do it. Kyle Massero writes, the Joker first reactions are out. They are indeed. Apparently an incredible, dark, and disturbing character study. Taxi Driver is my favorite film, so I can't wait. And that's one of the things that they've really been comparing it to. Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. Is those two, an amalgamation of those two things with an incredible dark character study of a man who goes mad based on a DC popular character in the Joker. It sounds, dude, Kyle, it sounds like a dream come true. And I am so excited for this movie. I have been excited since day one I've heard about it. Now hearing all these ridiculous reactions coming about it are just pumping up that hype level up to 11. So stoked, Kyle. So stoked. October cannot get here fast enough. All right. Kevin Kakatin, hope I'm pronouncing that right, writes, hey, John, any thoughts on the CW show The 100? It grew to be a favorite of mine. Never watched it. I might have seen an episode or two, but I might be thinking of a completely different show. So I'll just play it safe and say I've never watched it. But it's funny, Kevin, because you're not the only person that's ever told me they really like that show. I know a number of people who really enjoy that show. But again, I have limited time for how much television I can actually watch. There's a lot of good shows out there that I've never had a chance to see. But unfortunately, The 100 is one of them. So I've never seen it, can't really comment on it. But I've heard good things, Kevin. I've heard good things. All right, Andreas writes, do you play Hearthstone? I did for a while. I played a little bit of that because it's basically Hearthstone. is, hold on a second, let me bring up something here. So, Hearthstone is basically, I mean, I'm sure people get mad when I say it, but it's its own version of Magic the Gathering, right? So I've played it. I didn't play it a lot, but I enjoyed it. But I'm more of a Magic the Gathering guy, so I kind of just thought, well, I could play this or I could just play Magic the Gathering. So I'm really more of a Magic the Gathering guy. But I think it's a good game. I like it. I've got a buddy of mine who is obsessed with Hearthstone, who is absolutely obsessed with it. So there's that. David Harris writes, Khabib versus Dustin, who you got? I think, oh, yeah, Khabib. But, hey, make no mistake about it. Dustin Poirier is no joke. All right? Dustin Poirier just beat Max Holloway, a guy who hasn't lost a fight in like 5 years. A guy who's like beating everybody that came, like smashing everybody that came across his path, beating defending champions, former champions, all this kind of stuff. Won like, I don't know, what was it, like 12 fights in a row, blah, blah, blah. And Dustin Poirier went in there and completely outclassed him. Poirier is a threat. Make no mistake about it. But yes, if I got to put $10 on that fight, Khabib is simply the baddest man on the planet. I've said it before, I'll say it. Now, that doesn't mean Dustin couldn't win. He can win. Anybody in the UFC can just land just one lucky shot and you can win the fight. Like I said before, George St. Pierre lost a fight. Right? He lost a fight because of one lucky shot with a behind the ear hit, and he lost. So, but I've said before, if you've got a dark alley and Batman's walking down a dark alley and Khabib is walking down the dark alley, Batman turns around and leaves the dark alley. That's Khabib, all right? Khabib is the baddest man on the planet. So yeah, I'll put $10 on it, but don't think for a second. Don't think for a second that it's impossible that Dustin could win that fight. But yeah, if I got to put $10 on it, it's on Khabib. Nick writes, I agree with you, John. People are not caring about movies unless it's part of a universe is effing stupid. Iconic, though, as in the past, we were asking people to give superhero comic book movies a shot. It's true. Like I told this story again the other day. What Nick is referring to is that I've always found it funny that for the first couple of years of my career as a film pundit, I felt like it was a part of my job to try to convince people to give comic book movies a try. And then a shift happened where now I feel like it's a part of my job to try to convince people to try movies other than comic book movies. And now it's even refined more to it's like, I've had people write in who mean well. They mean well. I totally was saying, hey, if it's not part of a shared cinematic universe, what's the point in watching it? Because it's a great movie. Like always has been the point of movies, is to make a great movies. Movies have always traditionally been meant to be isolated, standalone events that you go and watch a movie and hopefully it's great and you enjoy it. That's why. But I don't get it. It's not part of a shared cinematic universe. What? I don't get it. What's the point? The point is to make a great movie. And I feel like today, it's like we got to convince people, hey guys, guess what? There's a lot of awesome movies that aren't comic book movies. And guess what, guys? There's a lot of awesome movies, great things about movies that aren't part of shared cinematic universes. And it's like now that, whereas it used to be my job to say, hey guys, comic book movies are getting really good. You should give these comic book movies a try. Now it's, you should give something other than comic book movies a try and something other than giant shared cinematic movie universes a try. And it is really, you could totally feel that shift that happened. The truth is in the middle. A great thriving movie industry has great standalone dramatic period piece comedy cinematic events and has shared cinematic universe franchise events. That's the best for a thriving movie fandom, is to have both. Not one, not the other. And that's just, it's becoming a bit of a peeve of mine, Nick, so you're absolutely right about that. All right. David Reese writes, do you have a favorite Schnepp moment that just had you in tears? Remembering back the bit about the possibility of the Aunt May spinoff still kills me. Yes, but my favorite Schnepp moment, I am not going to tell you. Because my favorite Schnepp moment was an off-camera moment. It was me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and there was a fourth person with us, and I'm trying to remember who it was. But we were sitting around, and Schnepp started joking about something that was completely inappropriate. But we because we were friends, we knew what he meant by it. So, but if somebody who didn't know any of us heard Schnepp joking about it, they might become offended, But because we knew how he meant it, it was just plain hilarious. But so I'm not going to tell you what it was. I'm not going to tell you what it was. But I remember it was one of those moments where I was starting to take a sip of something, and I didn't start to get the liquid in my mouth, thankfully, because if it did, it would have been spewed all over the place. But I remember he was going on about something, because you know how Schnepp used to be he'd start to get on a roll. So I'm just starting to drink something, he's getting on his roll, and then he said this one thing, and I instantly dropped it. I didn't spew because I didn't get the liquid in my mouth, but I simply dropped the can and fell over in the couch that I was on. And it hurt. I was laughing so hard it hurt. I had trouble breathing. But that is it's unfortunately a specific thing I can't share, but that was my favorite Schnepp moment. That was my favorite, and it wasn't even on camera. That absolutely killed me. He had a bunch of brilliant ones on camera, obviously. Tetris. Shapes! I mean, that was a big one, too. The Aunt May thing was obviously a big one. There's a lot of stuff like that on camera, but my favorite ones were the off-camera stuff. That was my favorite. But thanks for asking about that, David. I appreciate that. All right. Sorry, another little jump here. How far up do we got to go? Okay, there we are. Next up, David Reese writes, do you have a favorite? That was David. Sorry about that. Alex Alexander writes, hey, John, who's the better character? Grant's Barry Allen or Stevens Oliver Queen? I think Stevens Oliver Queen is the better character. There's a lot more to him. There's a lot more layers. There's a lot more depth. There's tragedy involved. There's him, the fact that that's a character that has really struggled with his darkness and his dark side. I think that makes the better character. I love the Flash show, though. Don't get me wrong. And I love Grant's Barry Allen. I do. I love that character. And I love that show. But as a character, I think Stephen Amell's Oliver Queen is a little bit better of a character. That's my opinion. Mary Sade writes, they could develop DM backstory before the battle. Oh, Darth Maul. No, they can't. It's not a Darth Maul show. It's an Obi-Wan show. And Darth Maul's backstory is already played out in Rebels. It's played out in Rebels. His whole quest about finding the holocrons and learning about the existence of Obi-Wan, it's all already been done in Rebels. There's no point in doing it without breaking canon, and there's no point. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an Obi-Wan show. If you're going to spend half the time with this character who's off somewhere else and not interacting with Obi-Wan, then it's not an Obi-Wan show. Then it's an Obi-Wan and Darth Maul show. It's an Obi-Wan show. So no, there's no way to do that. It's already been played out. The backstory is already there in Rebels. It's already canon, so you'd have to break canon in order to do it. So no, they shouldn't do it at all, and they can't do it because it violates canon. So that's just my take on it. All right, Nick writes, I know you hate hypotheticals. Well, yeah, sometimes. But if Disney eventually decided to buy all other major studios, which they can't because they don't have that kind of money, eliminating most competition, will they stop putting in effort into movies, thus killing the cinema industry? Okay. First of all, there's so much wrong there, Nick. There's so much wrong. Number one, Disney ain't buying squat. They just spent half of their net value buying Fox. They're going to be recovering from that for a long time. They dropped $71.4 billion, which was over half of their net worth. They just dropped to buy. They are not buying anything for a while. They've got to start restocking those coffers. But even if they did, theoretically speaking, which they can't do. Like I got this argument with somebody the other day. Disney should just buy Sony now. And I'm like, well, first of all, Sony's not for sale. Second of all, Disney can't afford Sony. Disney can buy anything. No, they really can't. They can't afford to buy Sony right now. They simply don't have the liquid assets to do it. But anyway, even if Sony was for sale, which they're not. Anyway, that being said, let's say in this theoretical world where Disney buys, there's a couple of other problems. The Federal Trade Commission would never allow Sony to buy all the studios. That becomes a legal problem. So even if you get past the part that these studios aren't for sale, and even if you get past the part that Disney can't afford to do that, and even if you get past the part that the Federal Trade Commission would never allow it to happen, and even if you get by all of that, and Disney suddenly owned them all, would they purposefully stop putting effort into the movies? No, because the better your product, the more money you make. Disney's about making money. If they wanted to kill the cinema industry, they would just stop making movies. Why spend money to try to make bad movies when all you have to do is just not make movies at all? Right? So no, even if in all of this impossible theoretical and hypothetical situations, through all the impossible hurdles you would have to go to just to get to that point, even if you had all that, no, Disney wouldn't stop, because they know the better the movies, the more money they make. If you put out a mediocre movie that makes a lot of money, you would have made a hell of a lot more money if that mediocre movie had been great. So no, they would still try to make it the best they can, because they like money. They like money, and the better the movies are, the more money they would make. All right, Nick writes, please ask Rob his opinion on that too. No, I won't. It's such a ridiculously unfathomable and unsustainable hypothetical that no, I'm not going to be asking Rob that one too, Nick. Even if I wanted to, I probably wouldn't remember anyway. All right. Third Man 3 writes, notice how similar the shots are when Rey and group approach Death Star in Celebration trailer versus Rey and group approaching Desert Plain Cliff in D23. I don't know how similar the shot. I mean, it's a group of characters approaching something that happens all the time. I don't know if there's any similarity. I don't know if there's any lines there to connect. Maybe there are. Honestly, it's not something that jumped out to me. But who knows, man? Who knows, Third Man? Anything's possible. Jason Espinoza writes, Maul shouldn't be Obi-Wan. I don't think anybody thinks he is Obi-Wan, but would love a series revolving around him and Black. Oh, okay. Maul shouldn't be in Obi-Wan. I see what you're saying there. But would love a series revolving around him and Black Sun, starring Kira, Hondo, Lando, and a new character combination. See, that's an interesting story. That would be an interesting story. And had Solo been a movie that anybody cared about and been successful, and I think Solo's a fun movie. I like Solo. I think that turned out to be a great sci-fi adventure film. I really do. But nobody asked for that movie. And it was not successful. It was successful in that they made a good movie, but not financially successful. But had Solo been successful, I believe that was a direction they were wanting to go. I don't know about Hondo or stuff like that, but I do believe that was a direction they were going to go. I have no insider information to back that up. I'm speculating. The way I watch it, my interpretation of it is that was probably the direction they were going to go off in, Jason. I really do think that was the direction they were going to go. But it wasn't successful, so it all really doesn't matter. But I would be interested in that. But again, it's coming out of a failed movie, so I don't know if they'll ever pursue it. But I'd be interested in that. A new story with Maul, with the whole Black Sun thing. I'd be down. All right. Chris Johns writes, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. Just curious, what are some of your favorite movie soundtracks and or scenes with memorable scores? Well, I mean, that's something I need to sit down and really think about. I mean, but one of the ones I always come back to is the Lord of the Rings score. The music of Lord of the Rings. See, here's one of my criteria, and this is totally non-scientific. But if I can hear a piece of music and it instantly teleports me back into the movie in my mind, and a scene in the movie and things that are happening in the movie and all that kind of stuff. When a piece of music does that, that's when it really works. Last night at the John Williams concert, for example, they start playing da, 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 the Jurassic Park music, right? And the moment that music starts to play, in my head, I am instantly teleported back into Jurassic Park. I'm taken there. When I hear any of the music from the Lord of the Rings films, it's so connected itself now to the visual experience that when I hear the music, instantly I am taken there. I am there and taken into the world. And that kind of becomes one of the key things to me. And honestly, there's never been a better example of that than the Lord of the Rings score to me. Every piece just takes me there. And, whether it's the Shire or whether it's Mordor, whatever, whenever you hear that music that played, it takes you there. And that's the one for me, Chris, that really stands out the most. All right. A fan of Peanuts writes, Vader redeemed himself with all the bad he committed, but ultimately died. Would you consider it a cop-out for Kylo to be redeemed if he then died too? The thing is, it's not a question of cop-out. It's a question of they already gave Kylo Ren that moment, and they gave it to him twice. I often talk about it in terms of the come to Jesus moment. Luke had his come to Jesus moment in Return of the Jedi. As he was fighting Vader, he had Vader down. He was getting ready to strike him down. And the Emperor is, good, now strike him down and take your father's place at my side. That was his moment now. That was his moment to make his choice. And his choice, throw the saber aside, say, no, I'm a Jedi like my father. Which then repeated itself later when he felt like, if I don't kill my nephew, there's going to be genocide in the universe again. Untold thousands and millions of people are going to suffer and die as a result of my nephew unless I kill him here. And he was faced again, and consistent to what happened before, Luke said, no, I'm not going to do it. Kylo was given that same moment twice. He was given that moment in The Force Awakens on that inexplicably handrail-less bridge with his father. That was his moment. He was presented with that choice. That was his come to Jesus moment. Go with my dad or kill my dad. And he chose. He chose. Despite the fact that he had already started down the dark path, he was given that moment and he chose. Later, in The Last Jedi, he was presented with another opportunity. He was in the walker. He knows his mother's in the base. And his thing is, and his command, he had opportunity to choose. He said, destroy it and kill everybody in there. And knowing his mother was in there. It's not a question of a cop-out. It's a question of narrative consistency. Kylo Ren has been presented with those moments and those opportunities to make their choice. Vader was presented with that choice as well. Let the Emperor kill my son or turn on the Emperor. And in that moment, he chose. He chose to save his son. That opportunity has already been given to Kylo narratively in the movies several times. So again, it's not a matter of cop-out, it's a matter of narrative inconsistency. To me, at any rate. So I just think it would be unfortunate and inconsistent if they gave, all of a sudden now Kylo has a redeeming thing, when all they've been doing is been having him getting darker and darker and darker. So let's put it this way. They would have to do something really impressive to pull it off, because I don't think you can. Fan of Peanutson writes, and if Kylo did go out like his grandfather, wouldn't that make for some poetic symmetry and the ultimate tragedy for the end of the Skywalker line? It all depends on how it's executed. Personally, again, it would be so narratively inconsistent that it would feel too jarring for me. But again, that's me talking in hypotheticals. I'd have to actually see how they executed it. But I think they've already done that. I think they've already done it. They presented Kylo with the same opportunities and that come to Jesus moment that Luke had and that Vader had, and they made their choice. So I think now you got to be narratively consistent with it. But, we'll have to see how they do it. Lone Wolf X6 writes, I am Thanos. Hello, Thanos. I am Lucifer Morningstar. I have no idea what you're referencing there. Sorry about that. Nathan Oswald writes, my top 10 most overrated films, Okay. Citizen Kane, Raging Bull, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Sound of Music, Saving Private Ryan, Silence of the Lambs, Blade Runner, Fight Club, Scarface, The Mate. All right. I mean, hey, listen. Obviously I'm with you on Blade Runner because I don't like Blade Runner, but for those of you scoffing at Nathan's list, remember, what is the definition of overrated? It's something that everybody thinks is brilliant that you don't think it is. You think it gets too much praise. Too many times people say, tell me some overrated movies, and they say movies that everybody already doesn't like. It's like, I don't think you understand what overrated means. So before you jump down Nathan's throat, which I gotta admit, I'm reading some of these like, really? You think Raging Bull is overrated? Anyway, but that's the nature of what overrated means, right? It's something that you don't think is necessarily all that great that everybody else thinks is fantastic. So if Nathan listed a bunch of films that everybody didn't think was fantastic, then that's not really a list of overrated, is it? Because people have to think it's fantastic. So again, it's a little bit of a head scratcher for me, Nathan, but that's what overrated lists are. They're lists that would make everybody else scratch their head. So at least you're honest about it, and I respect your list, Nathan. I don't agree with it, but that's the point. But I respect your list, Nathan. I respect it. All right. Another big jump here. Hold on a second. Here we go. QS Hicks writes, hey, John, the way that you feel about Star Wars canon is how I feel about MCU Spidey canon. With this deal going south, it's all ruined. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. Mainly because Spider-Man didn't start as a part of the MCU. Spider-Man started in his own solo universe. In the Sony universe alone, that's how it started. If anything, Spidey in the MCU is the aberration. Spider-Man in the MCU is the oddity. Spider-Man in the MCU is the glitch in the Matrix. Not him being out of it. Spider-Man started out of the MCU. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 1. And I forgot, I'm overlooking Spider-Man 3, which I shouldn't, but there it is. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man started outside of it. That's the norm. Him being in Marvel's MCU is the glitch. It's the oddity. It's the exception. But also remember this. Spider-Man leaving the MCU causes no canon issues for the MCU. None. There are no issues caused with MCU canon with Spider-Man leaving. Spider-Man was never in the Avengers, despite what Nick Fury said. He never teamed up with the Avengers. He never knew any of the other Avengers. He knew Tony Stark, but Tony Stark is gone. He knew he had bumped into Doctor Strange for a couple of hours on a spaceship once. He met other Avengers on the battlefield for a few minutes. But him now being gone isn't going to affect anything. So the canon of the MCU, they can go on and make now movies without Spider-Man and never referencing him, and it doesn't contradict canon at all. He had hardly any interaction with anybody else in the MCU as far as primary characters go. Sure, there were some secondary characters like Happy and Nick Fury, but Nick Fury interacts with a lot of people. You can do a movie with, a lot of movies Nick Fury doesn't pop up in. So the difference here, QS, I would propose, is that Spider-Man now not being there doesn't undo or undermine any of their canon. They can now move on and make their movies, and nobody can moving forward, they can have nothing where anybody ever mentions Spider-Man, and that's not inconsistent with the world that they created. So it's actually perfectly fine. And as far as Spider-Man on his own in his own universe, that's how the character started anyway. That's how Spider-Man movies were meant to be. So I think it's a radically... See, there's a difference between now Spider-Man is no longer in the MCU with saying, let's directly contradict the events of what happened in our canon already and do something in a totally different way. That's not the case with the MCU and Spider-Man. They'll be fine. And their canon will be fine. So this will be a little blip of an asterisk. It really will, because Spider-Man never had heavy Spider-Man never had heavy exposure to anything else in the MCU other than Tony Stark, really. So I personally, QS, see it as a totally different situation. I personally see it as a completely different situation, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. With NBC soon starting its own streaming service, I'm hoping they do a Blacklist prequel series. Reddington's backstory would be cool. You know me, though, Michael. I'm not interested in prequels. Generally speaking, I'm not interested in prequels. I don't need to know Reddington's complete backstory. I like having a little bit of mystery. I just want them to continue with the Blacklist because I really like the Blacklist. But between you and me, I'm not interested in a backstory. I'm not. But if they do it, so be it. They're going to be looking for stuff. But by the way, they don't need a streaming service to do that. They could just do that on their regular NBC channel. Right? But we'll see. I mean, look, they've already tried doing spin-offs with Blacklist. There was that one series that lasted one season that was a spin-off from Blacklist, but that ended. So it wouldn't be unheard of, Michael. It wouldn't be unheard of. They clearly see the Blacklist as being something that could be its own cinematic universe. So maybe that's something they'll do. I'm not personally interested in it, but I could see a good argument to be made about why they may do it. Nick writes, I'm sorry, man. I know that Disney buying everything question was stupid, trust me, but it's just scary and interesting to think about it, in my opinion. But again, like I said, even if you got past all those completely impossible hurdles and you got to a point where Disney owned all of them, which couldn't happen, but even if they did, if Disney's interested in making money, they would still make movies as good as they possibly could. And by the way, other studios would then just pop up. Other studios would just come into existence. Nature abhors a vacuum. And if all there was left was Disney, then other competitors would pop up. New companies would be formed and things would happen. And even then, Disney would want to make as much money as they can, so they would make movies as good as they can. So that's not really anything to worry about, Nick. So don't you worry about it, buddy. Don't you worry about it. All right, S. Beam writes, did you see the Wick/Matrix poster I shared you? No, I have not seen that. I don't know where you shared it to, but send it to me in an email. Send it to me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. I mean, a lot of people tweet stuff to me, but I get so many messages on Twitter every day. I'm sure I miss a lot of them. But if you want to make sure I see it, just send it to an email to me at john@thejohncampeashow.com, and I'll take a look at it. Thanks for that, S-Beam. Jonathan Vigoa writes, how about how many movies you own, digital and physical? Very few physical now. I used to collect a lot of physical stuff, but that was years ago. And most of them are now in boxes at my parents' house up in Canada at the ranch. So I don't even know how many I have. Maybe a couple hundred. I don't know. As far as digital movies go, how many do I own? I mean, not as many as you would think, because I don't see the need to own a lot of them. That's the thing. I really don't see the need to own a lot of them. One of the things I realized when I bought tons of DVDs, this is back in the DVD days, I realized I would buy a movie on DVD, and most of the time it just collected dust on my shelf because I only have so much time and new movies are coming out every week and I'm spending most of my time watching new movies. Yeah, every once in a while I would pop out the disc and play it, but I started realizing, you know what? For the amount of money it's costing me to buy that disc, I could have rented it 4 times. And am I really going to watch that one more than 4 times? And then what started happening was, then I started only buying movies, not necessarily the ones that I love, but ones that I can see myself watching this 6, 7, 8 times over the next 3 or 4 years. And then I'll buy it. If not, then I won't. Because I just realized a lot of the discs I would buy, including movies that I loved, some of them I never popped in the DVD player. Some of them I popped in once or twice. And I realized I would have saved space on my shelf and saved money if I just rented it a couple of times. Right? So even to this day with streaming, a lot of them I don't buy. a lot of them I'll just rent once or twice and watch it rental. Because and it still costs me about 1/4 of the amount that it does to buy it. But then there are movies like the Star Wars movies, like MCU movies, like Justice League or Batman versus Superman or Man of Steel or Shawshank Redemption or things like that I know I'm probably going to watch these like once a year. Those are the ones that I'll buy. So I couldn't tell you exactly how many I own, but it's less than you might think because I see so many movies in theaters, and then I just find it's better just to rent them once in a while. It actually saves me money. Anyway, Alex, where are we at here? Alex Alexander writes, is Captain Marvel the fastest MCU hero? I don't know. In the cinematic universe, right now, yes. Right now, I would guess Captain Marvel is probably the fastest superhero in the MCU. I'm guessing. I mean, if you take out semantic things like, well, actually, Doctor Strange can open a portal and travel from here to Istanbul in a split second. Okay, yeah, teleporting and sure, but if you're just talking about pure speed, probably is. Because Quicksilver isn't alive right now. So as long as Quicksilver isn't alive right now, yeah, I'm going to guess that Captain Marvel's probably the fastest. That's just a guess, so I don't know that for sure. Nick writes, one last thing. I saw that Disney Plus is going to have all their movies' special features available on the service. Does this give Disney a big advantage over Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, etc.? Because those don't. I think it gives them an advantage. Is it a big advantage? I'm not sure. I know it's a big advantage for somebody like me because I love bonus features. But I know a ton of average film fans, even if they buy a Blu-ray, will never open the special features part, right? So I don't know how big of a deal it is for a lot of other people. Clearly a big deal to me, clearly a big deal for you. But by the way, don't discount that other services can start introducing that as well. But yeah, for me, it's a significant advantage, Nick. For me, it is. I can't wait for Disney Plus. I was already excited about it, but then I went to D23 and their presentation completely sold me. Really, really did. It's not going to be all that great when it first launches because there's only going to be so much stuff on it when it first launches. But I'm telling you what, within the first year or so, it's going to become maybe the best thing out there. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We'll wait and see. All right. QS Hicks writes, in my opinion, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is the MCU version of Spidey. Tobey and Andrew were a different canon. I guess I'm mourning MCU Spider-Man stories. I mean, yeah, listen, QS, make no mistake about it. I am of the mindset that if I had my choice, Disney wouldn't have been so stupid and they would have made a deal with Sony and they would have kept Spider-Man in the MCU. That's what I would have preferred. I just think they'll all be fine. Spider-Man, they'll make great Spider-Man movies over in the Sony universe. They'll make great MCU movies in the MCU. Everybody will be fine. But I would have preferred for Disney and Sony to have made a deal and kept things going as they were. That's what I would have preferred. I'm just of the opinion that they'll both be fine. Everything will be fine. We're going to get great Spider-Man movies. We're going to get great MCU movies. Remember, Sony made the best Spider-Man movies were ones Sony made. Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Those to me are the two best Spider-Man movies, and they were made without Disney. So I think there's a lot of reason to be hopeful to that they're going to continue to make, and it's going to be Tom Holland. Tom Holland's already stated that he's going to continue to play Spider-Man. So it's still going to be Tom Holland. They're going to make great Spider-Man movies. It's going to be fun. And the MCU will continue to make great movies too. And we'll just move on. But I'm with you, QS. I'm with you. If it had been up to me, if it had been my choice, if Tom Rothman and Bob Iger called me and said, hey, Campea, what should we do here? Should we break it up or should we keep it together? I would have said keep it together. I think it's best for everybody if you keep it together. But it's not the end of the world. We're still going to get good movies, and I'm still looking forward to them. But you and me are on the same page there, QS. All right. Next up. Quinn Allfather 69 writes, your show is making me branch out as a film fan. Oh, that seriously, dude, that is one of the ultimate compliments. Thank you. I take that seriously as one of the ultimate compliments. Thank you for saying that. I'm loving Chernobyl, but can't get past episode 2 of Mindhunter. Keep up the amazing work. Dude, keep up with Mindhunter. I mean, look, it's subjective. It's not going to be for everybody, but God, I love Mindhunter. So do hang in there, man. But I'm glad you got on Chernobyl. It's going to win a lot of Emmys. Chernobyl is going to win a lot of Emmys this year. Absolutely. And I'm really glad. So thank you for sharing those kind words, man. I really appreciate it. All right. The Sock writes, came across some guy that flexed. He researched movies and listened to movie pundits. That was the most befuddling and pretentious thing. Came across some guy that flexed he researched movies and listened to movie pundits. It was the most befuddling and pretentious thing. I think I might be missing something, Sock. What's wrong with somebody saying that they listen to movie pundits and research movies? I mean, isn't that what all movie pundits should be doing? Isn't that what all movie commentators, shouldn't all movie commentators be listening to the opinions of other pundits and research? Maybe I'm missing something, Sock, but I don't see anything wrong. I must be missing something here, which is not, things go over my head all the time. I don't see what's wrong with somebody saying that they research movies and they listen to other movie pundits. What's wrong with that? I'm just a bit of I'm not sure what's wrong with that. Anyway, final two questions today, guys, and then we will wrap things up. We've been going for 2.5 hours today. So we're going to wrap things up with these last two from Ben Rayner, who writes, your well, actually voice. Well, actually, John, if you look at the history of the X-Men, when it comes, I don't know where that came from. I honestly don't. I have no idea where that comes from. But anyway, Ben Rayner then writes, you know what it is? I think that's probably how I sound like sometimes when trying to talk to somebody about, X-Men history or Star Wars history. Well, I mean, actually, if you go back into the formation of the Sith, I just imagine my voice sounding like that, but maybe that's it. Ben writes, for me, Homecoming is best Spider-Man movie. I'm sad MCU Spidey is done. Tom is favorite Spider-Man / Peter Parker. Peter Parker. I really like Homecoming. I do. I love Homecoming, as a matter of fact. To me, it's nowhere near as good as Spider-Man 2, and it's nowhere near as good as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But it's a great movie. I actually like Homecoming more than Far From Home. And I like Far From Home very much. I have some issues with it. Actually, I have some very serious logic issues with Spider-Man Far From Home, but overall, it's still a very fun, enjoyable film. But I liked Homecoming a lot more. I like that movie a lot. And Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man, and he's going to continue to be Spider-Man. He said it himself. I'm going to continue playing Spider-Man, and we're going to make even better Spider-Man movies than we did at Marvel. So I think there's a lot to be looking forward to here. All right, Nathan Oswald slipped one in here just at the end there. Nathan writes, in regards to Citizen Kane, I'll admit it's a very well-made film, but it's just so boring. The story structure is dated, sign of the times. I disagree. I don't know that I don't think the story structure is dated. I think it's still profound, and I personally think, Nathan, and your opinion is every bit as valid as mine. Your opinion is no less, no more valid than mine. But I think still today, if you want to know how relevant that story structure is, how they do it, when you watch movies today, you can still see how heavily influenced they are by movies like Citizen Kane. So that's why I see a little bit more value to that than maybe some other people will. All right, guys, that will do it for me today for this installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here today, guys, and for sending in all those questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And I thank you deeply for that very much. So some great stuff in here today, some great stuff that we all agreed with, some stuff we all disagreed about, which is great. That's what good film discussion is supposed to be, guys. And by the way, remember, me giving my opinion doesn't mean you're supposed to believe what I believe. I just hope that me giving you my opinion and the way I give you my opinion hopefully helps you sharpen why you agree with me or helps you sharpen why you disagree with me. The point of these conversations is not to agree with what I say. I'm just hopefully expressing my opinion on things in a way that helps you sharpen your own opinion, whether it's the same as mine or the complete opposite of mine. Either way is a win when you're a film fan and you're talking films with other film fans. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for being here today. Don't forget, we're going to have another open mic tomorrow. Make sure you come back and join us for that. And then the John Campea Show returns on Monday. Me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and Chris Carr will be here on Monday. Make sure you join us for that. Hey, listen, guys, while you're here, and I got you for just for a second, do something for me if you haven't done so already. Number one, click on that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to the channel and keep up to date on all the things we got going on here. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with the things I said. If you enjoy these sorts of videos and you enjoy these sorts of conversations, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. That helps it as well. And make sure that you jump into the comment section and keep the conversation going as well. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of Open Mic. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.